Chapter 91. Who are these guys? I don't seem to have any impression of them. Leaning on the bed, hugging Xing Guang and the White Queen, looking at the pictures on the TV screen, Xiao Xian asked curiously. Logically speaking, he should have an impression of a superpower of this strength. For example, the one who controls fire. Xiao Xian knows that there is a guy who can control fire among the mutants, but he is currently a student idol and superhero in X Academy. It is obviously not this. The White Queen shook her head, indicating that she didn't know them either. The one who controls the fire is called Lamplighter. Starlight recognized one of them, but couldn't remember the other two very clearly. I don't know the names of the other two, but I only know that they used to be affiliated with Vought Superheroes Limited, just like Lamplighter. Walter. Xiao Xian remembered after hearing this. There seemed to be a guy called Electric Light Man in the Black Robe Patrol team. A person with telekinetic powers had also appeared before, but he still had no impression of this guy who was rushing around recklessly. But the key point is that there is a water company in this world, but I have never heard of it. Yes, it's a local second-rate superhero agency. My mom once asked me to try to join them. Their company's ace group, the Super 7, is quite popular. Xing Guang nodded and said, but not long after I submitted my resume, they were involved in a series of events and went bankrupt. Bankrupt? Xiao Xian was stunned for a moment. Wait, the Super 7? That's right. The Super 7, led by Homelander, are very popular in our area, especially Homelander. Although Homelander's character design is a bit of a copy of Superman, it doesn't stop everyone from being his fan, and he is indeed very strong. Everyone says he has the potential to become the second Superman. Starlight nodded and said if Homelander hadn't died unexpectedly during an operation to capture a supervillain, Vought Corporation wouldn't have gone bankrupt so easily. A fellow countryman died unexpectedly. Xiao Xian was stunned when he heard this. Although Azia's strength could not compare to Superman, he was definitely at the T1 level, and he was afraid of death, so how could he die so easily? Xing Guang glanced out the window, then said to Xiao Xian there's a rumor that Superman was dissatisfied with Homelander because his character and positioning were similar to his own, so he took advantage of Homelander's pursuit of supervillains to kill him. I didn't believe this rumor before, but now that I've seen so many superheroes, I think it's possible. Upon hearing this, Xiao Xian felt that it seemed to be true. The authentic Superman was here. Aziu imitated Superman in all aspects, including personality, superpowers, and costumes. If it was the Superman in the normal world, it might not matter, but in this world, Spider-Man released a bunch of super-powered villains to harm the people of New York in order to facilitate his escape. It is entirely possible that Superman could destroy the pirated Homelander from a physical point of view. The latest news is that Tony Stark has commissioned Pepper Potts to hold a press conference to say that Tony has noticed the tragic situation at Rockefeller Center and that the Stark Foundation will help the families that were hurt by this incident. Tony Stark said that he wanted to fly over immediately to save the people in Rockefeller Center, but he was currently fighting the supervillain Deathwhip and could not get away. He would rush over as soon as he defeated Deathwhip. At the same time, Tony called on nearby superheroes to go to Rockefeller Center to save innocent people. The White Queen read out while holding her phone. Starlight curled her lips in disdain. It was obvious that it was Tony who didn't allow superheroes from other companies to go over, and he even called on nearby superheroes to go to Rockefeller Center to rescue people. It was really shameless. Let me see. Xiao Xian took the White Queen's phone and clicked on the comments under the news. He smiled after seeing a large number of comments petitioning Superman to come and save people. As expected, although Harry hated himself, he also hated Tony, so he still carried out the plan he proposed. Look, look! Xing Guang suddenly shouted. In the live TV footage, facing three supervillains, a group of people were trembling and hiding in the corner, ready to be slaughtered. At this time, the actress Eva Green stood up. Eva Green quickly found flammable materials such as clothing scraps from the surroundings. In the surprised eyes of the crowd, she piled up a large S symbol on the ground. This is the symbol of Superman, a symbol of justice and hope. Emily lit the fuel, and the fire instantly ignited in the dark night. The S symbol seemed to become a glowing beacon, illuminating the surrounding darkness. Superman has super hearing and vision. As long as we shout together, Superman will definitely come to save us. Eva Green shouted to the crowd. Beauty! Instead of begging Superman who is far away in Metropolis, why don't you beg me? The lamplighter watched Eva Green's performance quietly, then burned Superman on the ground into ashes with fire, stepped on him twice, and smiled at Eva Green. As long as you serve me happily, I promise that you will be safe tonight. Superman! Save us! Eva Green ignored the lamplighter and shouted. Beauty, it's no use shouting at the top of your lungs. The lamplighter looked at Eva Green's beautiful face and swallowed. He was really hungry after being locked up in prison for so long. If Daredevil hadn't come soon, he would have executed Eva Green on the spot. As for Superman, Lamplighter was not worried. He had a deal with Iron Man Tony Stark, so he also knew that the New York company had joined forces to prevent other superhero agencies from interfering in this incident. The only one who can defeat me tonight is Iron Man Tony Stark. As for the other superheroes, Daredevil will be seriously injured as agreed, and the rest who dare to come will be killed one by one, or two by two. Especially those from Oscorp will be taken care of specially. This is what Tony Stark and I have agreed. Superman! Superman! Save us! Superman! Superman! Save us! Under the leadership of Eva Green, a few people gradually followed suit, and under the herd effect, others gradually followed suit. Most people did not have the courage to take the lead, but some still had the courage to blend in and call for help. At the same time, driven by some people with ulterior motives, this scene spread wildly on the internet, and all kinds of comments that morally blackmailed Superman to save people popped up like mushrooms after rain. Superman, who was watching TV at home, was delighted to see the scene. He smiled happily and said to his assistant beside him, "They like me. They are looking forward to me saving them. This is not arranged by the company, but they did it on their own initiative. Right? Bruce didn't let me go to New York tonight, so this is definitely not arranged by the company." Yes. Oh no. Of course, they all like you. The assistant flattered him quickly. The previous assistants who dared to offend Superman had been burned to charcoal by his laser eyes. What are people saying online? Show me the comments. Are everyone expecting me to save people? Superman continued excitedly. The assistant was a little hesitant. If Superman saw those morally blackmailing comments and ran to New York himself, what would happen to Bruce? The assistant didn't dare to imagine it. I said, "Show me the comments." Seeing the assistant's expression, Superman immediately changed his tone and said in a low voice, "My words are useless, right? If he gives it to Superman, he will definitely go to New York after reading it, and Bruce will definitely kill him then. If he doesn't give it to Superman, he will most likely kill him now. The assistant is in a dilemma." The assistant thought about it and handed the phone to Superman, while pointing out Bruce's threat to him with a very frightened expression and tone. "You must not go to New York, or Master Bruce will kill me. If he doesn't give it to Bruce, Superman will kill him and he won't be able to stop him. If he gives it to him, maybe Superman will beg for mercy for him later, and maybe he can still survive. Don't worry, I'm here, what are you afraid of? As long as you listen to me, I will protect you." Superman took the phone with satisfaction and said, "This assistant is better than the previous ones." The previous ones all obeyed Bruce's orders, and Superman couldn't figure out whether the other person was Bruce's assistant or his own assistant. Chapter 92. You are the real heroes. As Superman swiped the screen of his phone, his eyes quickly scanning a comment that was expecting his appearance, Superman's heart was filled with excitement and pride. Superman knows that the world needs him, and his appearance is not only as a superhero, but also as a symbol of hope. They like me. Superman was as happy as a big kid. But when Superman scrolled down and saw those morally blackmailing comments, he was not so happy. If Superman doesn't show up, he doesn't deserve to be called a hero, one comment asserted. Superman obviously has supervision and super hearing. Now this matter has become such a big deal. With Superman's strength, does it take 3 seconds for him to fly from Metropolis to defeat those 3 villains and then fly back? Don't tell me he doesn't even have 3 seconds. If Superman doesn't save people, we will stop being fans. We believe in him and support him, hoping that he can stand up at the critical moment. Another comment directly threatened to stop being a follower, and the number of likes was over 10,000. There were hundreds of comments below, most of which had similar content. Only a few spoke for Superman, saying that he might have just fallen asleep. Is Superman just a symbol of hypocrisy? He heard our cries for help but chose to ignore them. This is not the Superman I know. Surely his usual behavior is just an act. After reading the comments, Superman exhaled and asked his assistant, if I don't save people, will I lose a lot of fans? Or even gain a lot of haters? It shouldn't be many, right? It would be better for Superman not to go if possible, the assistant said with a guilty conscience. The pace of this wave of online movement is still quite large. She even feels that big company is fueling the flames, otherwise the related topic wouldn't be so popular. Are you sure? If the number of followers you lose is more than I expected, you know the consequences. Superman said to the female assistant whose heart was beating faster. His super perspective can tell the lies of most people. Well, I'm not too sure, but looking at the situation online, it seems to be quite serious. The female assistant immediately changed her statement when she saw Superman with a hint of red in his eyes. If I go to save people, will I gain a lot of fans, especially fans in New York? Superman asked. What he cares most about is the fans. That should be it. This incident is the hottest topic in New York right now. The female assistant nodded. Bruce would definitely be rude to her. Now the only thing she could count on was Superman to protect her. On the other side, Diane Deng looked at the crowd of people shouting Superman and said with disdain, Superman? That shameless piece of trash, ridiculous. No one can save you today. Really? Wearing a uniform with the letter S embroidered on the chest, Superman floated behind the lamplighter. Superman, this name spread among the crowd instantly, bringing waves of surprised screams and cheers. His appearance was like a ray of light in the darkness, instantly igniting hope in people's hearts. No one doubted that Superman could not defeat these three supervillains. From the moment Superman appeared, the outcome was decided. Superman's eyes were filled with joy and pride. He looked around at the cheering crowd and then fixed his gaze on the lamplighter. His voice was calm and powerful, accept the punishment of the law. Before he finished speaking, Superman had already taken action. His action was simple and efficient. With just one punch, he knocked the lamplighter away. The lamplighter seemed to have lost all his strength, fell to the ground, groaned in pain, and could no longer stand up. Superman easily subdued the arrogant villain, and then flashed twice, and the telekinetic and body-enhancing users who tried to escape also fell down. The whole process took only a second, but it was extremely shocking. When the crowd saw this scene, there was a moment of dead silence, and then there was thunderous applause and cheers, and everyone shouted Superman's name in unison. Superman! 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 Amid the cheers of the crowd, Superman's heart was filled with extreme satisfaction and vanity joy. Superman was in the air, enjoying the admiration and praise from the people. At this moment, he felt as if he was the center of the world, and the corners of his mouth were harder to suppress than A moment later, Superman landed gracefully amid the cheers of the crowd, a modest smile on his face, as if trying to show his humility and selflessness. He looked around, and every movement was full of calculated grace. Don't thank me, this is what I should do. Superman's voice resounded through the crowd, and his eyes flashed with a sincere light. Everyone present, your courage and persistence are the real strength of this city. Hearing this, everyone shouted Superman even louder, and Superman couldn't help but grin even wider. Then, Superman slowly walked towards several policemen who were injured in the chaos. He gently asked about their injuries, and when he found out that they were not serious, he looked relieved, smiled happily, and patted their shoulders. You are the real heroes of this city. It is your bravery that protects the peace here. Tony Stark, sitting in his spacious living room, adjusted his armor with screws while his eyes were fixed on the live news on the screen, his eyes full of anger. In the picture, Superman is accepting the cheers of the crowd and the spotlight of the media. His carefully calculated humility and heroic posture move everyone present. But in Tony's opinion, all this was just another carefully planned show by Superman, and this time, the show was the fruit of his own labor. A trace of anger flashed across Tony's face, his fingers clenched into fists, and he angrily smashed the wine glass at the screen. This should have been his stage, a perfect opportunity to show off his Iron Man skills and courage. Tony was ready to use this event to once again prove Stark Industries' leading position in high-tech weapons and defense systems, as well as his personal irreplaceability as a superhero. However, now, all the spotlight has been taken away by Superman. And everyone in the industry knows that that was his prey. Now that it has been snatched away by Superman, how will everyone look at him? Soon Bruce Wayne called and Tony said in a cold voice, Bruce. Your people have overstepped the line. Calm down, Tony, I will double compensate Stark Group for its expenses in this incident. Don't let this matter affect our friendship. Bruce advised hurriedly, while frantically greeting Superman and the female star who took the lead in shouting Superman in his heart. This is not about money, Bruce. Tony looked at Superman's smiling face on the broken screen and laughed out of anger. Did he look like he was short of money? You just barge into my territory and steal my achievements, and you still expect me to remain calm? You seem to lack respect for me. In that case, be prepared to face the wrath of Stark Group. Without waiting for Bruce to answer, Tony hung up the phone. Chapter 93. Superhuman Speed. As Superman was receiving the cheers and gratitude from the crowd, an elderly man squeezed through the crowd and grabbed Superman's sleeve with his shaking hands. The old man's eyes were full of anxiety and expectation, and his voice, though weak, was full of urgency. Superman, there are other supervillains that have escaped from prison and are wreaking havoc in New York City. Innocent people are still suffering. Could you please help defeat them as well? The old man's words were like a stone thrown into a calm lake, causing ripples one after another. After hearing these words, the crowd was once again aroused. They echoed one after another, some with fear in their voices, others with eager hope. Yes, Superman, please help us. Although the Lamplighter trio has been dealt with now, New York is not peaceful tonight. Even if you escape here, you may encounter other supervillains on the way home. Moreover, most of the people present have relatives and friends living in New York. Even if they don't consider themselves, they have to consider others. Now that the most powerful person on Earth has come, if you don't embrace him, will you wait for him to leave and then call for help when you are in danger? This time, Superman came because he got angry. No one knows whether you can call Superman next time. It's not Lois, who can call for help. We need you, Superman. You are our only hope. The strongest superhero. Oh. Superman waved his hands and pretended to be flattered, but the smile on the corner of his mouth exposed his true thoughts. There are other superheroes in New York. They are also very powerful superheroes. I believe they can handle this incident properly. Although he didn't take other superheroes seriously in his heart, Superman was still wary of the companies behind them. Even if he didn't consider them, he had to consider Batman Bruce Wayne. He had already made Bruce unhappy by coming to intercept Iron Man, and if he went to mess with other superhero agencies, Bruce would definitely get furious. When the old man heard this, his brows knitted tightly together, and his expression showed a hint of anxiety and worry. He looked at Superman and said in a trembling voice, "But, Mr. Superman, it may take a long time for other heroes to deal with these supervillains. In the process, more innocent people will be harmed. We need you. Only you can quickly resolve this crisis and protect us from harm." Yes, Superman. Only you can quickly resolve the current crisis in New York. You are the world's strongest superhero. Compared to you, other superheroes are so weak. I want to quit the Iron Man Fan Association and join the Superman Fan Association. From now on, I will be your die-hard fan. A girl shouted to Superman. Don't say that. We are all superheroes, working hard for world peace. Tony is also a very good person. He just doesn't have time today. It can't be suppressed, it can't be suppressed at all. The corners of his mouth are harder to suppress than missiles. Superman looked at the girl who was talking with a smile on his face. The people of New York are so nice. They are much more sensible than the people of Metropolis and Gotham. A mother hugged her child tightly and said anxiously, "Yes, Superman, we have heard of the deeds of other heroes, but we believe that no one can deal with supervillains as quickly and effectively as you do. You are our hope. At this critical moment, only you can save us." The crowd echoed the sentiment, praising Superman in various ways, saying that Superman was like the reincarnation of Jesus, and begging for help to save people and saying good things about him, since it didn't cost any money anyway. Amidst the crowd's calls of handsome boy, Superman gradually lost himself and threw Bruce's advice to the back of his mind. Looking at everyone's expectant eyes, Superman waved his hand and said righteously, "Since everyone has said so, I can't refuse. I will catch the prisoners who escaped from prison and stop all this." After saying this, amid the cheers of everyone, Superman opened his arms and slowly floated in the air, looking at everyone and said, "Don't worry, no villain can escape the judgment of justice." After saying this, Superman accelerated and flew away into the air. Peter Parker, in his signature web-swinging style, shuttles through the New York skyline, looking for Xiaoxian or Tommy. Peter's movements were smooth and graceful, and the spider silk was like a weaver's thread, accurately attached to the buildings. Suddenly, an ominous premonition came over him, and the spider sense sounded violently, causing Peter's heartbeat to accelerate. But before he could react, an extremely powerful force had already fixed him in the air. Someone caught him? Peter thought in shock. Although he was shocked, Peter instinctively fought back. His fist was like lightning, fiercely hitting the abdomen of the person who grabbed him. If this blow landed on an ordinary person, it would be enough to penetrate, not to mention ordinary people, it could even easily penetrate the wall. However, when Peter's fist hit the person who was holding him, it was like hitting a hard block of iron. Peter only felt a sharp pain in his wrist, while the person who was holding him did not move at all, and even his uniform did not wrinkle. Peter realized how powerful he was facing. Peter's heart was filled with wonder. This kind of strength and indestructible body exceeded all his expectations. Even the Thing among the Fantastic Four would not have no reaction to his attack. Looking up, Peter saw the S logo and Superman's face that he often saw on TV. "Aren't you a superhero in Metropolis?" Peter wanted to cry but couldn't. However, before Peter could speak, Superman had already used his amazing speed to bring Peter to the side of the Winter Soldier Bucky. Seeing this, Bucky immediately swung his powerful mechanical arm and attacked Superman fiercely. This punch was as powerful as a storm, enough to tear steel apart. However, in front of Superman, all these efforts seemed to be in vain. Superman just grabbed Bucky's robotic arm lightly, not only firmly grasping it, but also easily twisting it into a twist in front of Bucky's astonished eyes. Then Superman grabbed Bucky like an eagle grabbing a chick. Although both Peter and Bucky possessed extraordinary strength and abilities, they seemed to have completely lost the ability to resist in Superman's hands. Then, Superman took them across the New York sky and quickly flew to the police station. During this process, Peter and Bucky were unable to break free and could only passively follow Superman. The two brothers looked at each other with helplessness in their eyes. When they arrived at the police station, Superman handed Peter and Bucky over to the police like showing off his trophies, and injected anesthetics and handcuffed them. In the police station, Peter saw a large number of arrested supervillains crowded inside the police station. Half a minute ago, Peter was still wandering in the corridor, but now he was locked up in handcuffs. At this rate, Peter felt that it would not be long before all the supervillains who escaped from prison would be caught by Superman. Chapter 94. Official Debut. All the supervillains in the prison escaped. Such a big event happened in just one night, or even less than one night. After Superman arrived, it only took 15 minutes to capture all the supervillains who had escaped as long as they were not dead. Not only did the number of people decrease, but when arresting people, Superman even had time to catch many black men and Mexicans who were not fugitives but took advantage of the chaos to make small dollar purchases. Superman is naturally highly regarded on the internet, but his reputation in the superhero industry is completely different. Generally speaking, superheroes are very regional. Superheroes from New York companies such as Osborn and Stark usually do not participate in events in Metropolis or Gotham. Similarly, Batman from Gotham usually does not interfere in New York affairs. Although there are no explicit regulations, this is basically the unspoken rule in the industry. It's okay to come to make money and accept interviews, and it's okay to come and fight monsters, no, fight supervillains. Unless a local company actively invites you to collaborate, you will be boycotted by everyone. Generally speaking, if someone like Superman overstepped his boundaries, stole Tony Stark's prey, and then wiped out all the supervillains who escaped from New York, this kind of behavior would most likely lead to him being shot 6 times in the back and committing suicide. However, considering Superman's strength, not to mention 6 bullets, even 6 nuclear bombs can't kill him. Compared with nuclear bombs, 6 walnuts might be more effective. At least after throwing them, you can argue that you wanted to buy Superman a drink. But if everyone doesn't retaliate just because Superman is so strong, then the New York superhero company will lose face, especially Tony. It's no different from being slapped in the face and then stepped on a few times. If he doesn't retaliate, then rivals like Harry Osborn and Justin Hammer will probably ridicule him every time they see him. Tony will probably have no chance of staying in the upper society in the future. So revenge is definitely going to happen, either by putting pressure on Wayne Group to punish Superman, or by taking action against Wayne Group, or directly against Superman himself. In addition, Xiao Xian also made his official debut through this incident. Although his deeds of defeating a group of supervillains did not seem so eye-catching compared to Superman, he still confirmed his identity as a superhero. Relying on his character as a prodigal son, Xiao Xian still successfully became popular. The way Xiao Xian became famous was very simple. Xiao Xian got a ticket to a high-end party in the entertainment industry through the Osborne Group. Then within one day, Xiao Xian successfully got famous actresses such as Taylor Swift, Megan Fox, Emilia Clarke, Emma Watson, Charlize Theron and others to confess their love to him online. The most high-end publicity often adopts the simplest method. In one day, so many national goddesses were won over. Many of them even had partners before confessing their love to Xiao Xian. For example, Leo's girlfriend Kelly Rohrbach boldly expressed her love to Xiao Xian on Twitter. Almost overnight, Xiao Xian's name quickly became a well-known figure in America and even the world. The goddess he loved became Xiao Xian's bootlicker. Countless young men envied Xiao Xian and gnashed their teeth, wishing they could kick him away and take his place. As for the women, the opinions of Xiao Xian were more divided. Those who thought Xiao Xian was handsome praised him to the sky, calling him the most handsome superhero in history, the most handsome man seen once in 5,000 years, the most charming man in the world, etc., all of which were given to Xiao Xian for free. A small number of other girls were completely indifferent to Xiao Xian's appearance, and felt that was all. You can't say he wasn't handsome, he was indeed a rare handsome guy, but he wasn't as good looking as those people said. Especially those female fans whose idols were cheated on by Xiao Xian but who had no feelings for Xiao Xian, did not understand why those female stars would give up their idols and choose Xiao Xian. In their opinion, their idols were the best. As for those female fans whose idols have been cheated on but who still find Xiao Xian handsome, sorry, their idols have changed. Although Xiao Xian may not be as loyal as their idols, can't sing, dance, rap, and doesn't care about his fans as much as their idols, Xiao Xian is still handsome. He is already so handsome, what else do you want from him? In fact, it's not that Xiao Xian doesn't want to pretend to care about his fans, it's just that the conditions don't allow it. Whenever he appears in public, girls in wedding dresses will run up to him to confess their love and propose to him, and there will also be girls who rush up to him and try to kiss, hug and lift him up high. If they were beautiful women, it would be fine, but for some heavyweight players, Xiao Xian doubted whether they could even fit into the car. Of course, there were also beautiful ones. Xiao Xian even played friendly matches with some of them. One of them impressed Xiao Xian the most because she came with her boyfriend. At the event, the young lady loudly confessed her love to Xiao Xian in her wedding dress. Her boyfriend was right beside her. At that time, Xiao Xian thought it was a follower brought by a young lady to chase stars. Seeing that the other person was pretty, Xiao Xian accepted the business card. Her boyfriend sent her to the hotel. Seeing her hugging Xiao Xian into the hotel, he said that he hoped she would take safety measures. The girl smiled and said to the boy, "Don't worry, I don't want the child if it's not yours." It was only then that Xiao Xian discovered that the two were a couple. By the way, after going upstairs, the young lady took the initiative to beg Xiao Xian not to take safety measures, and insisted on recording the scene as a souvenir. Although he didn't understand his boyfriend's train of thought, Xiao Xian still found time to call over Queen Bai, letting her see how the strange guy thought, and started experimenting on him. In order to cooperate with the experiment, Xiao Xian made several more appointments with this young lady. Each time, her boyfriend brought her over. At first, her boyfriend was a little resistant but not much. Later, he became very positive and even hinted to the young lady that it was okay if she was unsafe. "How is it?" Xiao Xian sent the young lady away again, pulled the White Queen into his arms and said, "Can you replicate this kind of thinking on Harry?" "Oh, and Tony, I really hold grudges. Harry should be fine. I have a lot of experience in this area now. The first step of implanting the consciousness seed in this area is the most difficult, but I can implant it into Harry's subconscious little by little when he is drunk or taking drugs. There will be no problem basically." The White Queen lay in Xiao Xian's arms and touched Xiao Xian's abdominal muscles. But Tony's hope is slim. Although he is also an alcoholic, he is much smarter than that idiot Harry. He might be able to detect that someone has tampered with his subconscious. I think it's best not to take the risk. As for Harry alone, it feels a bit unnecessary. In fact, I feel like I've made up for it on Mary Jane. After all, strictly speaking, he and Mary Jane have never had sex. Xiao Xian touched his cheek a little embarrassedly. Mary Jane had already taken on his own shape. Harry plans to bury you in the seabed when he and Mary Jane are on their honeymoon. He will fill you with cement. The White Queen said, and after it's done, we can legitimately use Harry's power. Fuck. Hit him hard. Xiao Xian said immediately after hearing this. What about Tony? The White Queen volunteered, do you want me to hypnotize Pepper and stab him to death? Forget it. There's a risk of being exposed. He's the head of Stark Group and a cash cow. If we kill him, many stakeholders will go crazy. And revenge, of course, must be full of malice. So killing him would be too easy for him. Xiao Xian shook his head. By the way, I heard that it was Tony who assassinated Superman with a kryptonite bullet that Deadshot used. Yes, I read Deadshot's mind from a distance, and it is true. It's a pity that Superman's reaction speed is too fast, otherwise Deadshot would be sure to hit Superman's heart with that shot. The White Queen replied. A bullet traveling at several times the speed of sound wants to hit Superman traveling at nearly the speed of light. Xiao Xian curled his lips when he heard this. Unless it was a plot twist, how could a kryptonite bullet possibly hit Superman? Some versions of Superman can travel faster than the speed of light. Chapter 95. Technology is power. Tonight's special guest is Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian walked onto the stage following the introduction by host Jimmy Fallon. Wow, you know what? When Black Cat said that you were more handsome in person than in the photo, I didn't believe it. I thought how could it be possible? But now I have to say, I believe it. Jimmy welcomed Xiao Xiandao. He does look quite different in person from the one on TV. Queen Bai said, looking at Xiao Xian on TV. I thought so too. Xiao Xian shrugged. Xiao Xian had noticed this when Tommy was playing games. Super charm can be exerted through the internet, etc., but the effect will be discounted. With Xiao Xian's current super charm, if they face each other, even a telepath like the White Queen and a super charming weirdo like Tommy will not be able to avoid it. But on the internet, even ordinary people, many with strong willpower can be immune to Xiao Xian's super charm effect. Compared to this Harry, how is it going? Xiao Xian asked. It hasn't been long since Norman Osborn died, so it's hard for us to touch him. But if we don't kill him, I'll be lucky enough not to be targeted in Osborn. There's basically no possibility of further progress. According to the original discussion with the Prophet, Xiao Xian will be able to take over Osborn Corporation in half a year. At that time, he will be able to obtain the Green Goblin's superpower and use Osborn's power to improve his own status. Social status is useless. Once a billionaire gets angry, his death may not be more beautiful than that of a homeless person on the street, but it is indeed useful. For example, Tony sent people to assassinate Xiao Xian because he disliked Xiao Xian. But even if Harry Osborn attacked Tony and dealt a fatal blow, Tony did not assassinate Harry Osborn. He just went against Osborn in business and other occasions. Why? In the final analysis, it is because Tony and Osborn are both big capitalists and belong to the ruling class. They are at the same level. Even if Tony is angry, he cannot send someone to assassinate Harry Osborn casually, otherwise it would be breaking the rules. Once discovered, the consequences will be very serious. Although Xiao Xian was a superhero and had some money, Tony looked at Xiao Xian the same way a Korean chaebol boss looked at a dancing female star. He did not take Xiao Xian seriously at all. He disliked Xiao Xian and wanted to kill him like killing an ant. Before, Xiao Xian waited patiently for half a year before taking control of the Osborn Group, but now that the White Queen's telepathic ability has become stronger, Xiao Xian is a bit too lazy to wait. As long as Osborn himself agrees, it is not impossible for him to be a senior executive of the company, or even the president for a second or two. Not to mention being in charge of Osborn, as long as he becomes a senior executive of the Osborn Group and holds some committee positions. According to the rules of the game, Tony cannot assassinate Xiao Xian at will like he does now until Xiao Xian is removed from these positions. That's right, from the time Peter escaped from prison to now, Xiao Xian has encountered several assassination attempts by killers sent by Tony. Although none of them were successful, it made Xiao Xian very annoyed. The feedback to Osborn was nothing more than that Osborn also sent people to assassinate several of Stark's superheroes, and they were all not very popular. Although Harry didn't say anything, the people below would also guess the intention. Remy knew very well how much Harry hated Xiao Xian. But if Xiao Xian holds an important position in the Osborn Group, Given Tony's behavior, even for the sake of their own safety, the executives of the Stark Group will stop Tony on behalf of Xiao Xian. Anyway, Harry Osborn was a drug addict and alcoholic, so everyone thought it was reasonable for him to do something rash. It was not impossible for him to appoint Xiao Xian as a senior executive, and it was unlikely that he was controlled by telepathy. It was just that Harry hated Xiao Xian so much that it was difficult to get him to agree, and it was almost impossible to get him to forgive Xiao Xian directly. If Xiao Xian was willing to kowtow and admit his mistakes, there might be a little hope. But how is this possible? Even in a fantasy world, Xiao Xian couldn't possibly arrange such a beautiful dream for Osborn. And if this were the case, wouldn't he have to act like a grandson in front of Harry in public and other situations where telepathy is not appropriate? So Xiao Xian decided to adopt another plan. Since Harry would never forgive him, he might as well change his way of thinking. Xiao Xian saw that the young man who came to see him with his girlfriend that day had a very unique way of thinking. After all, there are always some people in this world whose brain circuits are different from those of ordinary people. There are people who pay others to whip themselves, or even pay others to step on themselves. It is reasonable for Harry to hate himself and at the same time ask himself to be an executive of Oscorp, right? It was going well at first, but now I'm having a problem. It might be because I hinted too many times that Harry loved Mary Jane, and the hints were too strong. As a result, Harry loved Mary Jane so much that his possessiveness became overwhelming. In the fantasy I created for Harry, Harry forgave Mary Jane without hesitation, but that doesn't work for you. The White Queen replied, but I don't dare to weaken Harry's love for Mary Jane too much, otherwise Harry, a playboy, will probably think of changing to another one if this one doesn't work. Now I'm trying to find a balance between the two. I see. Try changing your mindset. Don't weaken the love. Strengthen Harry's love for Mary Jane. Also, give Harry some ideas like if you love her, you should try to make her happy. Mary Jane's happiness is the most important thing for Harry. Try this. Xiao Xian knocked on the table and looked at Queen Bai and said, besides, you can manipulate interests, right? Every time you fight me with someone else, whether it's Starlight or Mary Jane, they will beg for mercy and end the fight faster than normal. No, what are you talking about? How can telepathy have that kind of ability? Ha ha ha. Queen Bai was very embarrassed when she heard this. She thought she had done it very secretly, but there was nothing she could do. If she wanted Xiao Xian to stay with her for a while longer, she could only let the others finish their work quickly. Don't pretend. I'll give you one more chance. If you dare to lie to me, you won't get any reward this month. Xiao Xian pouted and threatened Queen Bai. Who could he expect to fool with such a level of lying? No. I can really control it. When Queen Bai heard Xiao Xian's threat of reward, she immediately admitted it. Then you should suppress Harry's interest in Mary Jane and magnify his interest when he thinks of or sees Mary Jane and me together. If that doesn't work, use your telepathic ability to feed him some relevant medicine. Osborn's main business is biotechnology, and there are a lot of related black technologies. Xiao Xian said. It just so happens that the film that Harry invested in for Mary Jane has started shooting today. Harry will probably come to visit the set often, so there should be plenty of opportunities by then. The White Queen suddenly realized that it could be done this way. With telepathy combined with various drugs, the effect of her superpowers could be taken to a higher level. For example, if telepathic hypnosis and sleeping pills were used together, the White Queen felt that she might be able to make Professor X fall asleep. After all, Professor X looked like he was overindulging in sexual activities. He might be able to withstand it mentally, but not necessarily on the physical level. For example, telepathic immobilization and nerve paralysis toxins, the White Queen feels that most superhumans can be controlled. It turns out that technology is power. Chapter 96. Aren't you jealous? At the lively scene of the film's launch conference, Xiao Xian, Mary Jane, and Harry became the focus of everyone's attention. Needless to say, Xiao Xian is the most popular superhero in America at the moment, nicknamed the Goddess Harvester. The reporters present, especially the female reporters, wanted to pounce on Xiao Xian directly. The reason why Mary Jane and Harry became the focus is very simple. Harry launched this movie to promote his fiancée Mary Jane. Many of the media who came today came because of the Osborn Group. During the Q&A session, a reporter took the opportunity to ask a sensitive yet gossipy question. Harry, your fiancée Mary Jane is acting with a handsome actor like Xiao Xian, aren't you jealous? There was silence for a moment, and everyone's eyes were focused on Harry, waiting for his answer. Xiao Xian looked at the White Queen in the far corner, and the White Queen mouthed a word, Tony. When Xiao Xian saw this, he immediately understood that these were reporters arranged by Tony, and their purpose was to disgust Harry. Tony Stark is really a troublemaker. He has offended quite a few characters in the plot, including Black Cat, himself, Harry, Hammer, Superman, and Killian. It's a pity that I didn't meet Pepper Potts at the last high-end banquet, and only met the Hulk's current girlfriend Betty Ross. Otherwise, Xiao Xian would have to let Tony know how dangerous the world is. Hearing the reporter's words, a trace of displeasure flashed across Harry's face, but it soon disappeared. Instead, when Harry thought of the scene of Mary Jane and Xiao Xian together, he actually felt a little excited and stimulated. Pinching his thigh, Harry quickly turned his gaze to look at his fiancée Mary Jane, who was smiling at him. How could he have such thoughts in front of a woman who loved him so deeply, his loyal fiancée Mary Jane? Cursing himself inwardly for taking too many drugs recently, Harry answered according to the answer from the earphone. Of course, Harry said according to the answer in the earphone, in love, who can say that they are not jealous at all? But I believe in Mary Jane, and more importantly, I trust the love between us. Mary Jane is a professional, and I know that at work, Mary Jane will maintain a professional attitude with everyone, whether it is Xiao Xian or other actors. And Xiao Xian is not only an outstanding superhero, but also a dedicated actor. I believe Mary Jane and Xiao Xian will bring us a wonderful movie. I don't know why, but when Harry said this, he was actually very excited when he thought about Mary Jane and Xiao Xian acting together, especially when there were slightly ambiguous plots in it. You know, last night when he and Mary Jane were in the bedroom, he couldn't get excited even if he wanted to. Could it be that he really awakened something strange? Harry thought in shock. After looking at Mary Jane and Xiao Xian, Harry quickly shook this strange idea out of his head. What was he thinking about? As Harry finished speaking, warm applause broke out at the scene. The reporter sent by Tony wanted to ask something else, but a fellow reporter asked a question first, forcibly interrupting the spell. Mr. Spielberg, why did you choose Mary Jane, a newcomer, as the heroine of the movie? What did you like about her? Of course it was her acting skills, and her spiritual eyes. I like them very much. This is what I imagined a heroine should look like. Spielberg paused, and finally chose to brag a little to give face to Harry, his financial sponsor. Spielberg actually has no shortage of money, but he still has to respect the biotechnology of the Osborne Group, especially the personalized health plans. It is said that it can not only delay aging, but the most advanced ones can even repair severed limbs. That thing can't be bought with money alone, it also depends on your status. Spielberg is old now, and even if he doesn't consider the present, he should consider the future. In case he needs help from the Osborne Group in the future, it would be good to make a good relationship with him. Mr. Xiao Xian, are you married? A female reporter asked immediately, looking at Xiao Xian with fiery eyes. No. If possible, try to ask about movie-related content. Xiao Xian said helplessly. Xiao Xian would be asked similar questions in every interview. After the opening ceremony, Harry took Mary Jane away, while Xiao Xian was blocked by a Betty Ross in the parking lot. Please. Please let me be your assistant. Betty Ross stopped in front of Xiao Xian and asked. Betty Ross has a graceful figure, and her long legs are one of the two most eye-catching features of her, especially when these legs are wrapped in delicate black stockings, which makes them look both elegant and sexy. Her outfit is bold and fashionable, with a tailored little black dress tightly wrapped around her body, perfectly outlining her graceful figure, and the hem of the skirt only hits the base of her thighs, cleverly showing off her beautiful legs. A pair of simple and elegant high heels perfectly extended her leg lines, making her long legs look even longer. Another eye-catching thing is the snow-white chest and the deep cleavage hidden under the thin black gauze, which makes people want to find out more. Why didn't the security stop you? Forget it, just pretend I didn't ask. Xiao Xian felt it was outrageous after he finished speaking. This girl was General Ross's only daughter. Go home quickly, Miss Ross. I can't ask you to be my assistant. If it were an ordinary person, even a top star like Taylor Swift, Xiao Xian could just pull up his pants and walk away without caring about anything. Taylor Swift would even call on fans on Twitter to follow Xiao Xian. But Betty Ross is different. She is the only daughter of General Ross, the powerful general in America. If Xiao Xian slept with her and left, a team of special forces might rush into Xiao Xian's house the next day, and Xiao Xian's past would be investigated thoroughly. If Xiao Xian was innocent, it would be fine, but Norman Osborn would make Xiao Xian so angry that he would die. In addition, Xiao Xian's home also hid various biological agents, poisons, bombs, etc., plus Fu Zhong. In fact, he didn't see Pepper at the last high-end banquet, but on the night he met Betty Ross, General Ross sent someone to warn Xiao Xian to stay away from his daughter, otherwise General Ross would mobilize all the forces he could to severely punish the guy who defiled his daughter. Besides, even if General Ross is not considered, Xiao Xian still has to consider the Hulk. But then again, the name of the Hulk is indeed a bit embarrassing, especially considering how Betty Ross pursued him. It seems that in the comics, he was cheated many times. Chapter 97. Do you still care about this? I'm a Harvard graduate, and my father is General Ross. I think I'm fully qualified to be your assistant. Betty Ross chose to introduce herself. From childhood to adulthood, whether it was going to college, looking for a job, or asking someone to do something for her, as long as she mentioned her father's name, Betty Ross could always get what she wanted. I know, Miss Betty, you can be a scientist, or go into politics, or be a lawyer, etc. Being my assistant is a waste of your talent. Xiao Xian said helplessly after hearing this. If it weren't for General Ross and the Hulk, Xiao Xian would definitely have a friendly match with a top beauty like Betty Ross. The Betty Ross in this universe is much more beautiful than the one in the movie version. Being handsome can sometimes be a problem. The troubles brought by Betty Ross far outweigh the pleasure her beauty brings to Xiao Xian. Besides, with Xiao Xian's current charm, he has no shortage of beauties. The number of people chasing after him is enough from here to Gotham. Is it my father who put pressure on you? Betty Ross saw Xiao Xian's embarrassment and immediately thought of the fact that from childhood to adulthood, her method of bringing up her father had only ever failed in one situation, and that was when her father had given her notice. For example, when it came to college, Betty Ross actually wanted to go to a European university like Cambridge or Oxford, but her father, General Ross, thought it would be better for her to stay in America. The end result was that no matter how many European universities Betty Ross applied to, no one accepted her. Not to mention Cambridge or Oxford, even fake universities refused to accept her. No, mainly because I personally don't like you. You are too ugly and don't meet my aesthetic standards. Xiao Xian shook his head and rejected Betty Ross's statement. This was also General Ross's special instruction. You're lying. Your eyes were fixed on my chest and thighs. Betty Ross saw through Xiao Xian's lie at a glance and said proudly that she had deliberately worn the most embarrassing battle suit today, the kind that her ex-boyfriend Bruce Banner had begged her to wear several times but was never allowed to wear. I didn't, don't talk nonsense. Xiao Xian immediately turned his eyes away. Although there was cleavage, there was no way she could show so much. Coupled with her long legs and black stockings, and she was the one who delivered the meal to her door on her own initiative, Xiao Xian felt that he was already quite good enough for being able to resist just looking at it. I'll go back to my dad right now. Betty Ross said with certainty. She took out her coat from her bag, put it on and turned to leave. She couldn't show off her outfit to others, as only Xiao Xian could see it. Wait, don't you have a boyfriend? Xiao Xian called out to Betty Ross and said righteously, I'm not the kind of person who would poach people. We broke up after meeting each other that day. But didn't you cheat on Leonardo and a bunch of other people? Betty Ross turned around and looked at Xiao Xiandao, her expression as if to say, do you still care about this? That was just an accident. In any case, if you keep cleaning, it's impossible for us to be together. Xiao Xian said with some guilt after hearing that. Leonardo couldn't turn into the Hulk and beat himself into minced meat. Although with Xiao Xian's current regenerative ability, it would only take a few seconds to recover after being beaten into minced meat. I've finally waited for you. Catherine has told me about you many times. In Central City, Iris West said to Xiao Xian with a smile on her face. Even if she didn't consider his appearance, she was very happy that he was willing to accept her interview with her given his current popularity. After they met, Iris was more pleased with Xiao Xian's appearance than his career advancement. She was indeed the legendary goddess killer. Moreover, according to rumors, Xiao Xian's ability in that aspect is also extraordinary. It is said that many female celebrities who have had relationships with him privately praised Xiao Xian's fighting ability. This is much better than that useless Flash. After all, it was agreed upon a long time ago. Xiao Xian shook hands with Iris, and thought as he looked at Iris, it was a good thing that they didn't follow the TV and film versions. Iris wore a neat dark blue suit today, paired with a narrow skirt of the same color, which made her look professional yet feminine. Iris's blonde hair was combed into a low ponytail, with a few strands of hair gently hanging beside her cheeks, adding a bit of casual charm. Her blue eyes were bright and deep, like a lake that could see into people's hearts, and at this moment, she was responding to Xiao Xian's gaze with nervous anticipation. In fact, Xiao Xian came here today mainly to find out what the Flash took that had caused him to become ill, so that he could go back and teach Harry the weakness of the drug. If there was a chance, he would also let the White Queen read the Flash's mind to understand the thoughts of a disabled person. Ahem. Nice to meet you, hello, my name is Emma. Seeing Iris's radiant look, the White Queen coughed twice to interrupt Iris's thoughts, stretched out her hand in front of Iris, and cursed in her heart, another vixen. Ah. Hello, I'm Iris. Iris looked at Xiao Xian with curiosity, asking about Emma's identity. This person looked like a hostess, but Iris remembered that the news mentioned that Xiao Xian didn't have a girlfriend. She is my friend and also my temporary assistant. She came here to play with me. Xiao Xian explained. Oh. So you're a friend? Iris emphasized the word friend and looked at the White Queen provocatively. Okay, let's start the interview quickly. Xiao Xian said to Iris, stopping the two people who were about to start a quarrel. Iris is just an ordinary person. If a real fight breaks out, she is no match for the White Queen. The interview began, and Iris tried to focus on the questions, but she found that her eyes always followed Xiao Xian's every move unconsciously. Xiao Xian talked about his responsibilities as a superhero, the challenges he faced, and his praise for love and peace and his opposition to violence. As a reporter, Iris has heard these lines more than once. Before she and the Flash broke up, she even saw the Flash Barry Allen reciting similar lines in front of her more than once. However, the same words have completely different effects in the mouths of different people. At this moment, in Iris's eyes, Xiao Xian seemed to glow. Until the end of the interview, Iris was still reluctant to leave. She looked at Xiao Xian and invited him. How about I take you around Midtown? Okay, Catherine said she will be here soon, let's go together. Xiao Xian glanced at Iris and nodded. Yeah, okay. Iris replied after a moment of surprise. She originally thought that she could only get half of it today, but unexpectedly it was only 1/3. No wonder Xiao Xian could hook up with so many female celebrities in a day and date several of them at a time without telling anyone. But he is really handsome. Iris looked at Xiao Xian and couldn't help shouting in her heart, what can I do? I really can't refuse. Chapter 98, Zhenbei Banner. Iris and Catherine said they would take Xiao Xian to visit Midtown, but they ended up visiting their bedrooms. Although both of their homes were also in Midtown, Xiao Xian always felt something was wrong. After rewarding several people generously, Xiao Xian hugged Iris and sat on a swing in Iris's yard, while the White Queen and Catherine set up a barbecue grill and had a barbecue. Looking at Iris's mansion curiously, Xiao Xian had been discussing life experiences in depth and didn't pay much attention to it. Suddenly, he realized that this house seemed to be more luxurious than his own mansion in New York. Although it was probably because the housing prices in New York were more expensive, this kind of super mansion was not something that Iris, a reporter, could afford, right? It was obvious that Catherine's house was not as luxurious as Iris's. Your house looks very expensive. Do journalists earn so much? Reaching his hand through the collar, Xiao Xian asked curiously while hugging Iris. No, I don't make much money as a reporter. This is the mansion Barry bought. After the divorce, Barry voluntarily left the house, so the house naturally belongs to me. Iris leaned obediently in Xiao Xian's arms like a kitten, adjusting her posture to facilitate Xiao Xian's movements. Do you like it? I'll give it to you. No, I've got plenty of places to sleep anywhere anyway. Xiao Xian shook his head and rejected Iris' suggestion. In fact, Xiao Xian was not short of money, at least not enough to buy a house. Whether he is selling goods through live streaming or begging for food from a rich woman, with Xiao Xian's current super charm, he can easily make hundreds of millions of dollars. But when money reaches a certain level, at least for Xiao Xian, what matters more than the number is the social influence that the money represents. At present, Bruce's personal net worth is only $92 billion, but he is the true king of Gotham. No one else, even the internet upstarts with a net worth of hundreds of billions of US dollars, can compare to Bruce Wayne, especially in Gotham. If his shares in Wayne Enterprises were converted into cash equivalents, Bruce's social status would plummet. Not to mention equivalents, even if Bruce Wayne was given $184 billion and thrown into Gotham, he would not have the current status of the King of Gotham. At best, he would be a super rich man, provided that he had not been robbed of his wealth and killed for money by various black and white means by the heroes of Gotham. Similarly, even if Xiao Xian was given $92 billion, he would not be able to have 1% of Bruce's influence in Gotham. Because Bruce Wayne controls the trillion-dollar Wayne Group, the trillion-dollar companies related to the Wayne Group, various foundations, various top committees, and the connections of various high-ranking politicians, these are the real sources of Bruce Wayne's power and influence. In the face of these forces, Xiao Xian, who broke into Gotham with 92 billion swords, was nothing more than a delicious piece of fat meat. Similarly, with Xiao Xian's current status, having a lot of wealth on him is of no use other than attracting attention. Money is essentially just a universal voucher for social influence. As long as you have enough influence, even if you don't have a penny, you can make people obey you and have all kinds of things that money can and cannot buy. As an Oriental, Xiao Xian has a deep understanding of this. The most powerful thing about super charm is not that Xiao Xian can have a bunch of card-playing friends just by waving his hand, but that it can make almost half of the people in the world fall in love with Xiao Xian at first sight and voluntarily make various sacrifices for him. If it weren't for the super charm spreading through the internet, the effect would be weakened. In addition, there are supermen in this world. With this ability alone, Xiao Xian can easily influence more than half of the people in this world. By then, he won't need money at all. He will have the hope of ascending the throne and becoming the captain of the world. He can even ask people to build a pyramid for him. As for why it is more than half, it is of course because almost half of the people will listen to Xiao Xian, and the remaining half are a lot of idiots, who will listen to Xiao Xian. For example, Iris' ex-husband, the Flash, left the house with nothing after the divorce, and he might have felt great about himself, especially touched by himself, thinking that he was a super good man, but Iris turned around and gave the mansion to Xiao Xian. Iris is relatively good, at least she is divorced. America has a lot of wives who use their husbands' salaries to support their lovers before they are divorced, and some even want to kill their husbands for the family property. Of course, Xiao Xian couldn't tell others about this. After all, Xiao Xian still planned to take over the Osborne Group through this route. To be precise, he wanted Mary Jane to take over the Osborne Group for herself. However, Mary Jane has already been shaped like Xiao Xian inside and out. Whatever Xiao Xian says is the truth. Mary Jane controls Osborne, which is equivalent to Xiao Xian controlling Osborne. When the time comes, if Xiao Xian likes any mansion, he can let Mary Jane buy it and give it to himself. This is the Osborne Group. Although it cannot compare with the Wayne Group, it is also a pharmaceutical giant in America. America is free, but some people are freer than others. Norman Osborn and Harry Osborn, who controlled the Osborne Group, both belonged to the American Plain White Banner. If they committed murder in the streets, they would only have to go to their own prisons for formalities and would soon be released by the president with a special pardon. Of course, if the person killed in the street was Tony Stark, that would be another matter. When Mary Jane came to power, Xiao Xian could rely on Mary Jane's connections and, although he might not be able to become a member of the Plain White Banner, he might be able to get into the Bordered White Banner. Hey! Iris, I brought you your favorite Italian pizza from Italy, eat it while it's hot. The Flash was full of anticipation, imagining Iris's surprised expression and bringing Iris' favorite pizza from faraway Italy. However, when the Flash crossed the yard and stepped quietly into the space he once knew, he saw a completely unexpected scene. You guys! Barry stood aside, still holding the box of pizza he brought from Italy, staring blankly at the two people hugging each other. Xiao Xian was caught by the real owner, and subconsciously regarded the Flash as the victim. He was embarrassed and wanted to find an excuse to explain, but suddenly he realized, wait, aren't you two divorced? Barry is an ex-husband, so why is he acting like the Hulk? Xiao Xian thought as he looked at Barry, who was in disbelief and pain. My dad adopted him when he was young, so we have been like siblings since we were young. That's why we still keep in touch occasionally after the divorce. But don't worry, I no longer have any love for him. Iris explained quickly, fearing that Xiao Xian would misunderstand that she still had feelings for the Flash. Oh! Xiao Xian nodded and wanted to pull his hand out of Iris's clothes. It's okay, just continue. Grabbing Xiao Xian's hand and placing it where it was just now, Iris said softly to Xiao Xian. After saying that, Iris looked at the flash again and said, "Barry, thank you for the pizza. If you have nothing else, go back. As you can see, I have important things to do now. If you have nothing else, go back." Chapter 99. The most popular superhero. Barry stood there, staring at Iris blankly. The pizza box in his hand seemed to become heavy. His gaze shifted from Iris to Xiao Xian, and then back to Iris. His expression was complicated, as if he had experienced countless changes of emotions in just a few seconds. Finally, Barry took a deep breath, forced out a smile that was more painful than crying and said to Iris, "Iris, I understand. I didn't mean to disturb you, I just wanted to give you a little surprise. Since you have more important things to do now, I won't stay any longer." Barry turned around and prepared to leave, but before taking the first step, he couldn't help but look back and said to Iris and Xiao Xian, "Iris, no matter what happens, I hope you can be happy. Xiao Xian, take good care of her and make her happy." After saying this, Barry Allen turned and left. His figure quickly disappeared into the night, leaving only the box of pizza brought from Italy quietly on the table. Is this possible? Xiao Xian found that the development of the plot was beyond his expectations. He's not good enough and can't make me happy. Is he going to stop me from finding someone who can make me happy? Iris said disdainfully as she looked in the direction Barry left. Don't be fooled by his bravery on TV. He is actually a coward. He never dared to fight back when he was beaten up. He could only run away. If I hadn't seen him become a superhero and my ex-boyfriend, a policeman, died in the line of duty, I would definitely look down on him. But if you want happiness, it seems like you've found the wrong person. You know me. I have no plans to find a girlfriend. Xiao Xian said while hugging Iris, his hands working non-stop. I know, but I'm very happy now. After saying that, Iris took the initiative to ask Xiao Xian for a kiss. It's really hard to understand these people's train of thought unless you see it with your own eyes. On the private plane borrowed from a rich friend, waiting for the take-off time arranged by the airport, the White Queen recalled the situation at Iris's house just now and still felt it was incredible. What on earth is going on in the Flash's brain? Who knows? Human diversity never disappoints me. Xiao Xian shrugged. That Iris is also a bitch. When she said she was with the Flash for money and fame, she wasn't lying. The White Queen flattered Iris. To be honest, apart from the money and fame, I find it hard to understand why Iris likes this Flash. Xiao Xian thought about the appearance of the Flash he saw at the party. If he knew him, he would have thought he was a hippie who had taken too many photos of the Flash and was cosplaying as the Flash. If he didn't know him, he would have thought he was a hippie who had taken too many photos of the Flash. If we have to say what Iris likes about the Flash, it would probably be his deep affection for Iris. He had a crush on her since childhood, and even when he grew up and became a superhero and was surrounded by beautiful women, he still remembered his original intention. He was willing to leave the house with nothing after the divorce, and even after the divorce, he still cared about her in various ways. But as the saying goes, a dog who licks will end up with nothing. Someone who licks so humbly like the Flash will never win Iris's heart. It's not right that no one falls in love with a humble person except McDonald's. McDonald just likes himself to be humble, not that others like to be humble to him. I discovered a secret when I read the Flash's mind. The White Queen leaned close to Xiao Xian's ear and said. When the Flash saw you and Iris being intimate, an idea flashed through his mind. He should have known better than to kill Iris's ex-boyfriend, the policeman. At least he was a good person and was nice enough to Iris. Now the Flash himself is not doing well, and the ex-boyfriend, the policeman, is dead, and Iris is actually being picked up by a scumbag like you. Ah, this. Iris also told me that he was a coward who didn't even dare to kill a chicken. He was so scared by the supervillain on the set who was covered in red syrup that his legs went weak and he went home to have nightmares. And what scumbag? It was obviously Iris who tricked me into her house under the pretext of a tour, and asked me to help try out the quality of the underwear she wanted to buy. I was just happy to help. Iris didn't lie to you. At least she really thought so. The White Queen replied. Wait. Why does my phone suddenly have so many messages? Xiao Xian heard the notification tone of his phone and took it out from his pocket. Mary Jane, Aunt May, Taylor Swift and a bunch of people he knew and even strangers sent messages to congratulate him on becoming the most popular superhero. Let's not talk about the third and fourth. Isn't Superman, who is in the first place, way ahead of me? And Batman, who is in the second place, is also much taller than me. Xiao Xian was a little confused when he saw the congratulatory message on his phone. Previously, relying on a large number of female fans, Xiao Xian quickly rushed to the list of the most popular superheroes. However, because of the fans of male stars who were cheated on and the boyfriends of female fans who gave low scores, Xiao Xian's ranking has always fluctuated between third and fifth place. But Superman, who is in first place, and Batman, who is in second place, have always been far ahead in popularity. Especially Superman, as the strongest superhero, has always firmly occupied the first place, and his data is far ahead of the second place. Let me see. The White Queen searched for relevant information, then covered her mouth in shock and exclaimed, "This is too outrageous." "No, what's wrong?" Xiao Xian asked curiously. Superman actually did such a thing," the White Queen said in an incredible tone. As she spoke, the White Queen turned the screen of her mobile phone towards Xiao Xian, and saw the news headline prominently displayed, "Superman's cheating scandal broke out, having an affair with a married woman aged 55. Looking at the news headline, Superman had a look of joy on his face, as if he had found a treasure, and walked into the room hand in hand with a woman in her 50s with obvious nasolabial folds, with ambiguous manners. Xiao Xian was confused. Not only did this woman have the same personality as Aziu, but even their hobbies matched? This woman seems to be the class teacher of Superman's child. The White Queen added to Xiao Xian, "Superman's ranking has plummeted and has now been adjusted to third place. Wayne Group claims that this is an artificially synthesized video and will prosecute the rumor monger according to law. I hope everyone will not believe this ridiculous rumor." This is too abstract, isn't it? Xiao Xian's mouth twitched. As we all know, an official denial is as good as a hammer. It's okay for Superman to cheat on a married woman, but he cheated on someone with such life experience, which really affected his popularity. The media is spreading this story everywhere, especially the New York media. It should be the New York companies that took action. Now Superman has dropped to third place in the list of the most popular superheroes, and his overall score is still declining," said the White Queen, and someone has revealed audio evidence of a Wayne Group executive trying to bribe a ranking website executive in an attempt to buy votes for Superman. "No, Superman dropped to third place, so I should only be second. How come I am first?" Xiao Xian asked curiously. "Oh, your female fans organized a campaign to vote for you for the one they love. There are also rumors that, as if to humiliate Superman and Bruce, many New York companies helped you to increase your scores and make you the most popular superhero." The White Queen replied, "I heard that they even asked a website to give you the most popular superhero award. I think it's better to forget it. Isn't this just pushing me into the fire pit?" Xiao Xian shook his head quickly when he heard that. Chapter 100. Superman Heat Vision. The plane took off and flew up into the clouds. Looking out the window at the white clouds, the White Queen looked at a black dot that was rapidly growing and asked, "What is that?" "A superhero, right? Can you read minds?" Xiao Xian looked at the black dot that the White Queen mentioned. As he spoke, the black dot quickly enlarged and vaguely appeared to be a human figure. At the same time, a familiar reminder sounded in Xiao Xian's mind. Ding! Mission: Superman is coming. Triggered. Mission name: Superman is coming. Mission description: you have become the most popular superhero, but with good fortune comes misfortune, and with misfortune comes good fortune. Superman is extremely unhappy about being deprived of the first place, especially because your fans gave him low scores to flatter you. The angry Superman got your flight route through Wayne Enterprises and decided to use the simplest method to deal with your threat. Mission requirements: remain undying in front of Superman for 60 minutes, 0/60. Mission reward: Superman Thermal Vision, revised, Superman Heat Vision, modified. You can use your eyes to emit extremely high temperature rays by consuming physical energy. These rays can instantly evaporate large amounts of water, burn objects, and even melt metal. Heat vision can be precisely controlled to achieve very fine operations, such as cutting very small targets, or simply heating the surface of an object without affecting its structural integrity, but the finer the operation, the more brain power and mental strength it requires. Oh my god! It has to be you, Ziu. Spider-Man, Starlight, Green Goblin, they are all weak, they just gave themselves a heat vision superpower. However, after persisting in front of Superman for 60 minutes, the only way Xiao Xian could think of was to prevent Superman from having the intention to kill him. After all, the system's immortality was put in quotation marks, and obviously resurrection through Tomi's superpower of super regeneration did not count. If we ignore Tomi's superpowers, whether it's flying, super charm, or self-healing, Xiao Xian has no idea how he can last for 60 minutes. I think something is going to happen. After seeing the system message, Xiao Xian quickly unbuckled himself and the White Queen's seat belts, then handed the parachute bag to the White Queen and said, I think it's Superman who's coming, and he's not a good person. I'll attract Superman's attention, you hide well, don't worry, I'll definitely be able to see you alive. Xiao Xian has super regeneration, so he won't really die even if the mission fails. But it's different for the White Queen, if she dies, she's really dead. The White Queen is the key for Xiao Xian to control Harry and take over the Osborn group in the future. Moreover, telepathic ability is very useful in collecting intelligence and fighting enemies. Xiao Xian is reluctant to let the White Queen die here. Xiao Xian! Don't, let's face it together. If we die together. The White Queen covered her mouth and looked at Xiao Xian with emotion, tears welling up in her eyes. That was Superman, the world's most powerful superhero. Even if Xiao Xian had super regeneration, he would have no chance of winning. Instead, it would only prolong the time of torture. Little fool, hide well and wait for me obediently. Don't worry, I will come back to see you. Xiao Xian touched the White Queen's head and said. This person seemed to have misunderstood something. He just chose the option that maximized his benefits because of his own interests, but the White Queen seemed to think that this was love. Fortunately, he was wearing an anti-telepathy helmet. Xiao Xian felt relieved, as if he saw the words loyalty +1 popping up above the White Queen's head. After that, Xiao Xian forced the White Queen into the bathroom and asked her to lock the door. Then Xiao Xian used his flying ability to fly through the glass window of the plane and flew in the direction of Superman. The intelligence of the Wayne group didn't say you can fly. Superman slowly flew in front of Xiao Xian, standing with his hands behind his back, looking leisurely and confident. If it weren't for the task prompt of the system, Xiao Xian would have found it hard to think that Superman came here to solve the problem physically because he had taken his position as the most popular superhero. It's common for intelligence to go wrong, even if Wayne Enterprises is the world's largest superhero agency. After all, the vast majority of Wayne Enterprises employees are just ordinary people. Xiao Xian said, since this Superman's hobbies are extremely similar to those of his motherland, then there is a high probability that the Superman will agree with the theory of superhuman excellence. With Xiao Xian's current strength, it would be difficult for him to complete this mission by force, but since he has a head on his neck, he has to use it. Xiao Xian feels that there is still hope if he relies on intelligence. That's totally incorrect. Whether we are superhumans or ordinary people, we are all equal. What really determines whether we are excellent is our character, not our superpowers. Superman said righteously. It's just the two of us, why don't we be frank? Xiao Xian's mouth twitched. This Superman really loves to act. I don't know why you came to see me, but I've actually wanted to see you for a long time. Oh. You're looking for me? Superman asked curiously. It would only take him a few seconds to deal with Xiao Xian. The intelligence said that Xiao Xian was basically impossible to kill and could only be imprisoned or sealed. So Superman would throw Xiao Xian out of the solar system. It would not be a big deal for Superman anyway. I've always felt that superhumans should help each other, and you should be the leader of superhumans. Xiao Xian modified Magneto's words and told Superman, don't you think it's absurd that those mortals can have superpowers like you and me just because they were born into a good family? You're not going to persuade me to rule the world or something. Superman felt a little bored when he heard this. More than one person had said this to him, but Superman had never been moved by it, not even once. Firstly, Superman has no interest in that kind of thing. Compared to being a commander-in-chief who is scolded by everyone, Superman would rather be a superhero and enjoy everyone's love. Secondly, Superman knows that there are still things in this world that can threaten him, and Superman has no idea how many cards those guys have hidden. Not to mention anything else, the kryptonite weapon that Deadshot used to assassinate Superman last time made Superman very afraid. Although the speed of that thing was so slow that it was no different from a turtle in Superman's eyes, it did make Superman feel threatened. If someone could accelerate that thing to a certain level, Superman might really fail. Ordinary kinetic weapons are of course impossible, even the electromagnetic cannon cannot hit Superman, but the Flash in Central City, Quicksilver in X-School, etc., if they are holding weapons such as kryptonite daggers, Superman feels that they are still a threat to him. It doesn't matter if you don't want to now. You will figure it out sooner or later. Seeing that Superman didn't buy it, Xiao Xian changed his words and hit Superman's vital point directly. At least I think we superhumans can help each other. Haven't you been in the news recently? I have a lot of loyal female fans, I can call on them to help you clean up the mess. Female fans are much more professional at cleaning up the mess than your combat power fans. Chapter 101. Turning enemies into friends. After listening to Xiao Xian's words, Superman had to admit that he was moved. Superman himself knew the fighting power of Xiao Xian's female fans, which was much stronger than that of his own fans. If anyone dares to say bad things about Xiao Xian publicly on the internet, Xiao Xian doesn't have to do anything, those fans will beat the person to pieces. And it's not just ordinary people, even celebrities with a large number of fans will be overwhelmed. For example, Leonardo DiCaprio, because he was cheated on by Xiao Xian, posted a tweet calling Xiao Xian a scumbag who seduced women everywhere. Just because of this tweet, Leo was attacked by Xiao Xian's female fans. Many of Leo's fans also announced that they would stop being his fans. There were even extreme fans who issued a death notice for Leo online, claiming that they would hang him at home. Of course, Leo's fans are not to be trifled with. It is said that an extreme fan leader of Leo, with a few fans, went to an event attended by Xiao Xian, kicking sulfuric acid in the air, in order to teach this scumbag Xiao Xian a lesson and let Xiao Xian's fans know that Leo's fans are not to be trifled with. Then at the event, those fans collectively rebelled after seeing Xiao Xian. They said they were not familiar with Leo at all and told him not to contact them anymore, for fear that Xiao Xian would misunderstand them. In addition, if Leo doesn't apologize, they will throw sulfuric acid on him. What a scumbag! He is obviously a male bodhisattva who gives benefits to sisters everywhere. Under the triple blow of mental, physical, and financial loss, Leo had to publicly apologize and admit his mistake. Even so, he had to travel with a large number of security guards every day for fear that the extreme fans would actually put it into practice. The most important thing is that no matter whether it is Superman or the analysts of Wayne Group, they all think that what Leo said is right, and even think that Leo is already quite conservative. From his debut to now, there are at least 80 female celebrities who have fallen into the clutches of Xiao Xian, but Xiao Xian has always slept with her and not been responsible. He even asked her to call on fans to pay attention to Xiao Xian. If this is not a scumbag, what is he? However, it was also thanks to Xiao Xian's undisguised scumbag behavior. Otherwise, with Xiao Xian's charm, if he had taken the route of a perfect idol like Superman, according to analysts at the Wayne Group, his popularity would have surpassed Superman long ago even without this incident. As an opponent, Xiao Xian's charm is so high that Superman becomes autistic and wishes to throw him to the Centauri constellation. But as his own public relations person, if he can help him clean up his name, then perhaps he can really help him get through this difficult time. Your proposal sounds good, but I need to know, why are you offering to help me? Superman looked at Xiao Xian with scrutiny. Wayne Group's analysis showed that Xiao Xian was extremely selfish and obviously would not devote himself to any superhuman cause. Moreover, Superman is not an innocent person. He knows that there is no love or hate without reason in this world. Xiao Xian must have some ulterior motive in helping him. Xiao Xian smiled and said, "Because I believe that superhumans should support each other and face the world's misunderstanding and fear of us together. We should be allies, not opponents. To be honest, I don't care about the ranking of superheroes. If I help you today, you can help me tomorrow. So you want my help? And you're willing to give up your ranking on the superhero rankings?" Superman quickly extracted the key points from Xiao Xian's flowery words. Superman himself was a master of nonsense. Although most of the time, Wayne Group staff helped write the words and Superman just read them, when he encountered tricky questions that he had not thought of in advance or unexpected situations, Superman had to write the words himself. "That's right," Xiao Xian answered frankly, "in my opinion, the position on the Super English ranking is not the most important thing. What do you want me to do for you?" Although he was tempted, Superman did not agree immediately. Instead, he asked, "Not yet. I hope we can form a more stable alliance. After all, you need my fan appeal, and I also need your strength to provide me with protection. After all, I have powerful enemies like you, but unlike you, I am not as strong as you." Xiao Xian shrugged. Since Superman had lifted the fig leaf, Xiao Xian was too lazy to pretend to be an excellent superhuman. He showed weakness to the enemy instead. In addition, the more contact he had, the higher the chance of completing the task. "Who is your enemy?" Superman asked. Xiao Xian's value was indeed very high, but choosing a friend meant choosing an enemy. Superman had to see who Xiao Xian's enemy was before making a decision. "Harry Osborn, of course I can handle this myself, as long as there is no external interference. And there is Tony Stark, which is why I want to cooperate with you. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right?" Xiao Xian said. "The others are just minor characters that are not worth mentioning for now, such as Peter Parker, who you took back to prison in less than half a minute. They should not matter to you at all, right? Tony Stark." Superman gritted his teeth when he heard this. Sending the killer and this cheating incident were all initiated by Tony Stark. Now the person Superman hates the most is Tony. If Tony's father wasn't the founder of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Stark Corporation wasn't the top company in the military-industrial complex, Tony would belong to America, and his father made Tony suffer all the hardships in his life when he founded S.H.I.E.L.D. and Stark Corporation. Superman really wanted to fly over and take Tony away with his hot eyes. "You're right. We are indeed suitable for cooperation." Superman stretched out his hand and shook Xiao Xian's. "But let me make it clear in advance that if you want me to fly over and kill Tony with my hot eyesight, forget it. That would be a violation of the rules. It would be a betrayal of the ruling class and would be wanted worldwide. Of course I have no intention of turning the table. After all, I am considered an upper-middle-class person. But are you afraid of a global wanted list?" Xiao Xian pretended to be puzzled. "Of course I'm not afraid, but it would be stupid to give up everything I have now for Tony." Superman shook his head. Superman is not afraid of being killed or caught because he is wanted worldwide, but once he is wanted, how can he be a superhero and enjoy the admiration of the people? Moreover, it seems that there are things in this world that can hurt him, and Superman is still a little afraid of the ruling group. Of course, it's not that difficult to take revenge on Tony. Xiao Xian took out his mobile phone, clicked on Pepper's file and showed it to Superman. "This is Pepper, Tony's wife. Just find a way for me to meet her. The little Pepper in this world looks completely different from the version in movies and TV shows. She is a very beautiful blonde beauty. Xiao Xian feels that he can still sacrifice her. Is there such a thing?" Looking at Xiao Xian, who was so handsome in real life that he even felt jealous, Superman thought speechlessly, but it seemed like this would really work. Xiao Xian's charm was so strong that little Pepper would definitely fall for him. After a moment of silence, Superman slowly spoke. "So your plan for revenge is to cheat on Tony? That's just the first step. Pepper is Tony's closest person. Only when we make her ours and get enough intelligence about Tony, we will know what to do next, right?" Chapter 102. Done. Superman is my best friend. I know him very well. In my impression, Superman is not the kind of person who would betray his family. Please give him more trust. I heard that Superman's children and the female head teacher have been criticized because of this. Xiao Xian was talking to the camera. Superman did not attack him, and the task of thermal vision was easily completed. Xiao Xian was in a good mood now. In addition, he might need to use Superman as a gun in the future. No, it was a time for friends to help each other. Xiao Xian was very active in helping Superman clean up the mess. But Mr. Xiao Xian, the video circulating on the internet. The reporter did not explain the rest of the words, but the meaning was already very clear. In this day and age, seeing is not necessarily believing. Xiao Xian shook his head. Are the videos necessarily true? There are so many videos about me on various video websites now, more than Tifa. Can you say that those videos are also true? Ever since Xiao Xian became famous, the number of his artificial face-changing videos has skyrocketed on various learning materials websites such as P-Station. At first, Xiao Xian wanted to report and accuse the couple of infringement, but later he found that his regeneration rate had skyrocketed. He also saw many messages about couples quarreling because the woman secretly watched Xiao Xian's videos, people getting divorced because they called Xiao Xian's name while playing cards, and women requiring men to wear Xiao Xian's mask when they did that. In short, it was very abstract and brought Xiao Xian a lot of hatred. But experts believe that it is true, and among them are experts from the Osborne Group, the company you signed a contract with, the reporter asked. But some experts believe it's fake, which is meaningless. I'm not saying that the experts at the Osborne Group are not good, but this matter may involve conspiracy theories and supervillains. You know what I mean? For the deep government or supervillains, it's not difficult to create a video that is almost indistinguishable from the real thing. Xiao Xian talked nonsense in a serious manner. After all, he had the mouth on his body, so he could say whatever he wanted. As for whether others believed it or not, that depended on who was saying it and who was listening. After the interview, Xiao Xian came to the set where director Spielberg and other actors had been waiting for a long time. In addition, Harry was also on the set, giving Mary Jane a gentle massage as she leaned on the most comfortable chair in the entire group. The White Queen was leaning against the wall in her uniform, but everyone else ignored her as if she was transparent. Why did you come just now? The whole team was waiting for you. When Harry saw Xiao Xian coming late, he immediately frowned and scolded him. It was really abominable that Xiao Xian made Mary Jane wait here for so long. It's okay, Mary Jane waved her hands again and again, very considerately. We all understand that superheroes are very busy at work. If you are so inclined towards me, won't Harry find out? Xiao Xian looked at Mary Jane in surprise, but Mary Jane didn't panic and winked at Xiao Xian playfully. Since you said so, my dear, then forget it. Harry's expression immediately changed when he heard that. He smiled and even looked a little happy. Ah, this. Looking at Harry in shock, Xiao Xian turned his gaze to the White Queen, who made an okay gesture towards Xiao Xian. Because he was playing himself, Xiao Xian had no pressure at all. While the staff were cleaning up the venue, Xiao Xian walked to Queen Bai and asked quietly what's going on. Didn't they say it would take some time to resolve? After you risked your life to save me yesterday, I felt that my superpowers had improved again. The White Queen smiled proudly and asked Xiao Xian for credit. I tried it today. Now, I can easily control the thoughts of a guy like Harry who is addicted to drugs. Improvement is so fast. Xiao Xian was envious when he heard this. How come a mutant like the White Queen was just like the Uchiha, whose strength would increase rapidly when stimulated by strong emotions? In comparison, Xiao Xian still has to work hard to complete tasks or collect hatred in order to improve his superpowers. However, Xiao Xian's ability limit is much higher, especially the superpowers of the weird, which are extremely strong. For example, the super charm and super regeneration obtained from Tomi, the former made Xiao Xian a goddess killer in this world, and even ranked first in the most popular superhero rankings. The latter not only greatly enhanced Xiao Xian's ability to survive and gave him great tolerance for error, but also fundamentally changed the essence of Xiao Xian's life. For example, Xiao Xian can live without food or water, and can create body regeneration materials out of nothing, which also provides energy for the superpowers that Xiao Xian subsequently acquires. For example, the ability to fly consumes a lot of physical strength. For example, Brother Hua Xiao can only fly for 1 minute and must rest or he will die. However, Xiao Xian can fly for several hours without overdrawing his physical strength. In the end, his heart couldn't take it anymore and he returned to the character selection interface. For example, thermal vision. If there is no super regeneration, Xiao Xian will most likely only be able to launch thermal vision of a few hundred degrees, and he will not be able to keep up if he launches too much. After all, ordinary people only have so much physical energy. It would be great if the thermal vision that uses physical energy as energy can burn people to death. But now with super regeneration, the thermal rays shot out by Xiao Xian are as high as 3000 degrees, which will last for more than 10 minutes before he becomes exhausted. Moreover, it won't take long for Xiao Xian to recover after being exhausted. That's right. Instead of stopping you and Mary Jane, Harry now will bring you and Mary Jane together. The more you cheat on him, the happier he will be. The White Queen winked at Xiao Xian. It's so exaggerated. Xiao Xian's mouth twitched. So outrageous? Then comes the next scene. After you save Mary Jane rewards you with a French kiss as a token of gratitude. Spielberg personally explained the play to Xiao Xian. He knew that Xiao Xian had not read the script and had no interest in it, but Xiao Xian was the biggest star in the film and the one who could bring in the box office revenue. Although it didn't matter whether Osborne hired him to make a movie or not, Spielberg still didn't want to have a black history of huge losses in his directing career, even if the reason for the huge losses was not himself but the interference of investors. Originally Spielberg came here with the intention of losing money, but now Xiao Xian's popularity has given Spielberg hope of a turnaround. Xiao Xian is now more popular than Leonardo DiCaprio in his big ship period. As long as he is in the movie, those girls will rush into the cinema like crazy, and even watch the movie 2 or 3 times just to see Xiao Xian. Is it okay? Harry is still here, shall we shoot this? Or should we wait until he leaves? Xiao Xian said, glancing at Harry who was peeling fruit for Mary Jane. No problem. Mr. Harry understands Mary Jane's profession very well. In fact, it was Mr. Harry who proposed this plot. Spielberg also had a strange look on his face and said that he really didn't understand the train of thought of the rich second generation. This kid Harry must have had problems with drugs. Chapter 103, Generous. Xiao Xian and Mary Jane stood in the middle of the set, and director Spielberg directed the crew to adjust the camera angle to ensure that every detail could be captured perfectly. All around them, the actors and crew held their breath, hoping that this crucial filming would go smoothly. Why are there so many people watching? Xiao Xian looked at the audience around him and said helplessly. The world's most popular superhero is here to film a kissing scene. Who in the entire crew can resist coming over to watch? Mary Jane said proudly while enjoying the envious looks from the other girls around her. Harry sat aside, his eyes complicated and difficult to read, holding freshly peeled fruit in his hands. He seemed to be nonchalant, but in fact he was nervously paying attention to the scene that was about to unfold. Jane? Do you want to use a stand-in? Glancing at Harry who was obviously very concerned, Spielberg took the initiative to say that even if other people were Oscar-winning actresses, they would not be able to use a body double when filming kissing scenes in his movies. But the person in front of him was the young lady of the Osborne group, and Harry Osborne was sitting next to her. Harry is generous now, but who knows if he will blame himself for jealousy when he wakes up in a dream at midnight. No need, director. I'm a professional actor. Mary Jane immediately shook her head when she heard that. Why did she reject it? What a joke. She should give up the kissing scene with Xiao Xian and let Xiao Xian kiss the stand-in. She was not mind-controlled by the White Queen. Okay then. Spielberg looked at Harry and saw that he didn't say anything. He couldn't persuade him anymore, so he just asked, "Are you ready?" Xiao Xian nodded, and Mary Jane also nodded slightly, took a deep breath, adjusted her emotions, and prepared to immerse herself in the role. Action! With Spielberg's order, the entire set fell silent. Xiao Xian slowly walked towards Mary Jane, their eyes met, and the air seemed to be filled with electricity. Xiao Xian reached out and gently touched Mary Jane's cheek. She closed her eyes and enjoyed this gentle touch. Then, Xiao Xian lowered his head, and their lips slowly approached, and finally pressed tightly together, performing a passionate and affectionate French kiss. Harry watched from the side, his expression constantly changing from the initial nervousness to a complex relief, as if at this moment, he finally accepted the development of things. Cut. Spielberg's voice sounded, breaking the silence in the scene. Very good. Mary Jane's acting is great. Xiao Xian is also very handsome. The audience will love this scene. What do you mean Xiao Xian is also handsome? The subtext is that I have no acting skills, right? Xiao Xian thought to himself as he supported Mary Jane, whose legs were already weak. That's the feeling. Let's just shoot one more take as a backup. Spielberg wanted to strike while the iron was hot and finish the shoot quickly. Wait, director, let's shoot again later. I need to adjust my mood. Mary Jane declined. She could not even stand steadily now. If it happened again, Mary Jane was afraid that she would make a fool of herself in public. You're not in the right mood. Okay, let's take a break and continue shooting later. Just as he was about to say that Mary Jane was in a very good mood right now, Spielberg noticed that Mary Jane leaned on Xiao Xian to stand firmly and immediately changed his words. Spielberg decided to take advantage of this time to talk to Xiao Xian about the play. Although Xiao Xian's looks are enough, it would be better if his acting was as realistic as possible. Spielberg took Xiao Xian aside and taught him acting skills in a low voice, explaining the character's inner world, thoughts and ideas, and internal motivations for behavior. Finally, Spielberg concluded. In short, you are acting as yourself and just act the way you usually appear in public. But in this scene, you'd better show that you feel moved. Feeling moved? I thought I acted okay just now. Xiao Xian asked doubtfully. Today Mary Jane wore a bright red costume, which showed a pure and sensual style. Xiao Xian was really moved and decided that she would sleep with him tonight. After looking around and confirming that Harry was accompanying Mary Jane and not paying attention to the situation here, Spielberg whispered. What you're performing is not a feeling of excitement, but desire. I want the feeling of a young boy's eyes lighting up when he meets his first love, not the feeling of an experienced customer's eyes lighting up when he sees today's technician is particularly beautiful. Do you understand what I mean? I understand. You are making things difficult for me, right? Or is it the screenwriter who is making things difficult for me? Xiao Xian nodded thoughtfully, then said. I'm playing a cameo role in my true colors. Do you think I could possibly have the same feeling towards others as when you meet your first love, when your eyes light up? Everyone knows that my nickname is the Goddess Killer, and you actually let me play an innocent boy. Oh my god, what he said makes so much sense that I was speechless. Spielberg was completely stumped by Xiao Xian's words and felt that it seemed that it was indeed the screenwriter's problem. Then just act like this, it is indeed more reasonable. Spielberg finally said helplessly, forget it, anyway, Xiao Xian's role in this movie is just to be a male vase to attract female audiences to watch it, so his acting skills don't matter. As a guest role, Xiao Xian had very few scenes. After filming the kissing scene with Mary Jane and a few more shots that were popular among female fans, Xiao Xian's mission for the day was considered completed. But when Xiao Xian was about to leave, Harry came over and invited Xiao Xian with a mysterious expression. Xiao Xian, I was thinking, maybe we could have dinner together? Mary Jane has something she wants to discuss with you about the plot and acting. Hey! Xiao Xian was a little confused. Harry invited him to dinner? The White Queen was so powerful. I know we had conflicts in the past, but for Mary Jane, I am willing to put them aside temporarily. Harry added awkwardly when he saw Xiao Xian's surprised expression. Okay. Xiao Xian thought about it and nodded. Harry heaved a sigh of relief after getting Xiao Xian's affirmative answer. He didn't dare to imagine how disappointed Mary Jane would be in him if she knew that his invitation had failed. Thanks, you're much more generous than I thought. Oh, that's okay. Who can be more magnanimous than you? Looking at Harry, Xiao Xian complained in his heart, inviting me and your wife to dinner, most people can't do it. At night, in Harry's mansion, the three of them sat around an exquisite dining table. Expensive artworks hung on the walls, and the soft lighting made the entire space warm and luxurious. The light from the crystal chandelier hanging from the ceiling reflected on the exquisite silverware and tableware, creating an indescribable noble atmosphere. As the host, Harry wore a well-tailored suit. When he saw Mary Jane and Xiao Xian chatting happily, Mary Jane also showed a relieved smile on her face. At the dining table, the White Queen, who was ignored by Harry and Mary Jane, bent over and looked at the scene under the table and spat. Chapter 104. Lovers. Just chatting is too boring. How about we have a drink? Seeing that the two were chatting enthusiastically, Harry took the initiative to suggest. Okay. Xiao Xian naturally had no objection. After the super regeneration, Xiao Xian's alcohol tolerance could not be said to be good, but he could drink 1,000 cups without getting drunk. I'll go get some wine. Harry stood up and went to the wine cabinet to get some wine. Honey, my legs went weak when you kissed me on the set just now. As soon as Harry left, Mary Jane threw herself into Xiao Xian's arms and looked at him. Got it. I'll satisfy you and Emma later in the evening. Xiao Xian pulled Emma into his arms and said while hugging them both. I have completely transformed Harry. The White Queen took credit, not only will Harry not be angry tonight, but he will also bring you two together. There's no need for a matchmaker between Xiao Xian and me. I've been Xiao Xian's woman for a long time. Mary Jane said with a smile on her face, leaning in Xiao Xian's arms. Harry will be back soon, you should go back quickly. Xiao Xian estimated that it was about time, so he said to Mary Jane. It's okay. It doesn't matter if he sees it now. Mary Jane hugged Xiao Xian and said reluctantly. I know. I want to see how proactive he will be. After all, he was quite rampant before. Xiao Xian pinched Mary Jane's cheek and said, Revenge, of course it's more interesting to take it slowly. You're so bad. I like it so much. Mary Jane got up reluctantly, straightened her messy clothes and said with a smile. The wine is here. Harry returned to the dining table with a bottle of Macallan 1946 and took the initiative to fill Mary Jane and Xiao Xian's glasses. Under the alcohol, my influence on him is even greater. After Xiao Xian took a sip of wine, Queen Bai took a sip from his glass and said, I'll make him kneel down and beg you later. Ahaha. That's too boring. Xiao Xian looked at Harry, who finished the cup, and smiled faintly. Just maximize his desire to be cheated on. There's no need to deliberately distort his moral values. Torture without struggle is no fun. Unless he's about to flip over, don't worry about it. I'll listen to you, but I don't think he can resist. His will has been almost worn out by the long-term enjoyment, drugs, and alcohol. The White Queen looked at Harry and said, The only thing Harry has that's worth mentioning right now is his love for Mary Jane, but Mary Jane has already expressed her desire for you to him today. So this not only has no positive effect, but is the last straw that breaks his will. If Norman Osborn was as easy to control as he is, we wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. The White Queen glanced at Mary Jane as she spoke. If this vixen had been dealt with during the time of Norman Osborn, there would have been no need for this vixen. Forget it, even without this vixen, there were other vixens around Xiao Xian, and the White Queen had no hope of getting the meal all to herself. Before Xiao Xian got the Magneto helmet, the White Queen was able to read Xiao Xian's mind. At that time, the White Queen knew that Xiao Xian didn't want to marry her or have a relationship with her because he looked down on her or thought she was not charming enough. Xiao Xian simply didn't have any thoughts in this regard. I heard from the director during the day that you two are still a little short of being a couple, and today's kiss scene wasn't perfect enough. After 2 glasses of wine, Harry gritted his teeth. Just as the White Queen said, the dam of his will collapsed under the impact of desire. He looked at Xiao Xiandao. This is Mary Jane's first movie. I want everything to be perfect. Do you want to practice some more and ask the director to reshoot it tomorrow? Okay. Ahem. Xiao Xian, what do you think? Mary Jane certainly didn't mean to refuse, and looked at Xiao Xian expectantly with her eyes lit up. You can't develop a relationship by kissing. Xiao Xian pouted and refused. Most people might be able to develop a relationship by kissing, but Xiao Xian was definitely not one of them. Let alone kissing, they couldn't fall in love after a long time. Of course Xiao Xian also knew that Harry had ulterior motives. He wanted the movie to be perfect. He just wanted to watch himself and Mary Jane having sex to satisfy his perverted hobby. How could Xiao Xian let Harry do what he wanted so easily? Then how can we develop a sense of couple? Harry quickly asked. Let me think about it. Mary Jane's fiancé is the leader of the Osborn Group. I'm an artist, just an employee. How could I have a relationship with Mary Jane? Xiao Xian thought for a moment. If you want me to feel like a couple, then at least let me be the leader of the Osborn Group, even for a minute, so I can experience what it feels like to be the leader of the Osborn Group, right? Xiao Xian said, holding Mary Jane's hand in front of Harry. Otherwise, right now, even if we hold hands, we won't feel anything at all. Seeing Xiao Xian holding Mary Jane's hand, Harry's breathing quickened, and his face, which was already red from drinking, became even redder. He looked at Xiao Xian and said, I think you two look like a couple right now. You look more like Mary Jane's fiancé than me. I came to your house for dinner with good intentions, and you actually said that to me. Upon hearing this, Xiao Xian immediately let go of Mary Jane's hand, as if he was letting go of a hot potato. This person cursed so harshly, it would be more appropriate for Harry to have a fiancé like Mary Jane. I am a non-marriage advocate. What's the difference between you and a vegetarian who eats meat and fish every day? Xiao Xian. Mary Jane looked at Xiao Xian pitifully, and at the same time angrily cursed Harry in her heart for talking nonsense and making Xiao Xian unhappy. Wait, I apologize. Although he was angry and couldn't understand, Harry, who was overwhelmed by love and desire, still chose to apologize. Looking at Mary Jane's pitiful appearance, Harry felt his heart melted. Forget it this time, but in any case, let me be the leader of the Osborn Group for fun. Show me your sincerity, otherwise there's no point in talking about it. Xiao Xian said while holding Mary Jane's hand again. I can't make the decision on this matter alone. Harry was a little helpless. In fact, Harry didn't care about this matter. He didn't care anyway, but he really had no say in this matter. It must be approved by the board of directors and the shareholders. It's just 1 minute. The other shareholders won't be that resistant. Xiao Xian naturally knew this. Although Harry had the greatest voting rights, he did not have the final say in this matter. But the problem is, with Xiao Xian's super charm and the White Queen's mind control, Xiao Xian is really not afraid of things like voting. Don't worry. With your maximum voting power and the votes of the female directors, we can just get a few more votes. Okay then. Harry nodded, then asked eagerly, what about you and Mary Jane? In order to show my sincerity, I will find a way to cultivate a romantic relationship with Mary Jane. As an advance payment, I will take a bath with Mary Jane tonight. It's normal for couples to take a bath together, right? Xiao Xian said as he held Mary Jane in his arms. Of course, this is also for the sake of making a good movie. Harry said with his waist bent and breathing rapidly. Chapter 105 Natasha's Visit. Because the Osborne Group is a listed company, changes in leadership require an announcement. The fact that Xiao Xian served as the leader of the Osborne Group for 1 minute quickly became a hot topic on the internet and attracted a lot of attention. The announcement released by Osborne Group to the public was to show the group's importance to Xiao Xian, so it appointed Xiao Xian as the chairman and president of Osborne Group for 1 minute to show its importance. The actions of the Osborne Group have made the outside world very confused, but most people who are familiar with Harry think that this matter is unexpected but reasonable. After all, Harry has been taking drugs for a long time and his brain is abnormal. Anyway, the group's affairs are taken care of by professional managers. Although Harry is a prodigal son who spends money recklessly, as long as Harry does not interfere in the company's affairs, he will never be able to finish the legacy left by Norman Osborn in his lifetime. On the contrary, it is likely that he will create more and more. Harry is crazy. He gave up his position as chairman and president to others. When Tony saw the news, he was so angry that he smashed his phone. Assassinating a superhero of Osborne's subsidiary was not the same as assassinating the former chairman and president of Osborne Group. After Harry did this, Tony would be breaking the rules if he sent someone to assassinate Xiao Xian. Assassinating a superhero is not a big deal, but randomly assassinating executives of the Osborne Group, even former executives, will inevitably provoke a full-scale confrontation between the Osborne Group and the Stark Group. Now the Stark Group is fighting with the Wayne Group. If the Osborne Group comes, the Stark Group will definitely suffer a great loss. Cancel the assassination plan against Xiao Xian. Tony sighed and ordered Jarvis. Okay, Master. The visitors from S.H.I.E.L.D. have been waiting outside for a long time. It seems that they have something important to tell you. Do you want to meet them? Is that the Black Widow? Tony asked with his eyes lighting up. Black Widow is the ace agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and a teammate of the Avengers. It is said that she has received special training in related aspects. Tony has been coveting her for a long time. No, it's Agent Hawkeye Barton who's here, Jarvis replied. That guy Barton. Forget it, let him in. Tony curled his lips and decided to give his nominal teammate some face. If the old man was still alive, the female agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. would want to play that and that. On the other side, Harry's house also welcomed an agent from S.H.I.E.L.D., and the visitor was none other than the Black Widow that Tony had been thinking about. The reason why S.H.I.E.L.D. sent Black Widow to Harry's side instead of Tony's is very simple. Although Tony is lustful, he is not responsible for anyone except Pepper Potts, and he will not give up his interests for a woman. Harry can see from Mary Jane's incident that she is still a bit of an innocent girl. Sending a beautiful woman over may help him gain more benefits. Honey, are you done? A female agent from S.H.I.E.L.D. came to see me. At the bedroom door, Harry spoke into the microphone at the door. He was very strict with his male ethics now. Harry would not go to see the beautiful agent alone without Mary Jane's company. It's just started. Maybe in half an hour. After waiting for a while, Mary Jane's voice came from the telegraph. More than 40 minutes later, Xiao Xian opened the door with Mary Jane and the White Queen, who were still a little disheveled. He looked at Harry, who had obvious dark circles under his eyes and looked a little unsteady, and asked the White Queen. What's going on with him? Did he take too much drugs? What did you feed him? Be careful not to let him die from taking drugs and attract an investigation. He's not taking drugs, he's just rewarding himself too many times. Do you think everyone is like you? They don't need to rest at all. The White Queen rolled her eyes. When you and Mary Jane were taking a shower together yesterday, and when you took Mary Jane back to the room after the board meeting today, what do you think he was doing? Fortunately, this house is well soundproofed, otherwise he would be even more exhausted now. Damn! Why do I feel like this is a reward for him? He won't be very happy today. Xiao Xian looked at Harry, whose steps were unsteady, and said, "No, we can't do this. Let Mary Jane put a lock on him later. I think it's okay. He is indeed very happy." The struggle and regret you expected only briefly appeared in his mind during the cooling-off period. The White Queen nodded and said, "At other times, he just hopes that you will go a little further." Xiao Xian's mouth twitched. This was really perverted. "Hello, Agent Natasha, nice to meet you. I'm Harry Osborn." On the surface, Harry is the boss of the Osborn Group, and it was Harry who first shook hands with Natasha. "Hello. I'm Natasha." Natasha smiled and shook hands with Harry, but her attention was completely on Xiao Xian. Natasha is wearing a black tights, which not only fits her body perfectly and shows her enviable curves, but also has enhanced protection design in key parts, which is both practical and beautiful. "Hello, I'm Xiao Xian." Xiao Xian then shook hands with Natasha. This time, Natasha did not separate immediately. Instead, she held Xiao Xian's hand tightly and scratched the palm of Xiao Xian with her middle finger. "Hello, I'm Natasha. I've heard of you for a long time. Barbara is right, you are much more handsome in person than on TV." Black Widow said to Xiao Xian with a charming smile. "Barbara mentioned me to you." Xiao Xian said a little surprised. "Of course, Barbara told me a lot." Black Widow winked at Xiao Xian and said something with hidden meaning. "Is that so?" Xiao Xian was quite surprised. As far as Xiao Xian knew, Barbara and Hawkeye had not divorced yet. She needed the image and attention of Hawkeye's wife. Is it okay for Barbara to be so talkative? Bitch. Seeing Natasha and Xiao Xian shaking hands for obviously too long and deliberately smiling coquettishly, the White Queen and Mary Jane both cursed in their hearts. With Xiao Xian's charm, he certainly has no shortage of girls, but Natasha is wearing a black tights, has big wavy hair, and has long legs. This kind of beautiful girl is very threatening to the two of them. After all, Xiao Xian is only one person and he has limited time. If he spends more time patronizing Black Widow, he will naturally have less time to patronize others. Natasha. Natasha reluctantly ended her handshake with Xiao Xian. It was simple for Natasha to greet Mary Jane. Not only did they part at first sight, but there was also a faint smell of gunpowder in the air. At just one glance, as a veteran agent, Natasha was sure that Mary Jane was definitely interested in Xiao Xian, and judging from the physical distance, the two might have had sex. Natasha, who is also a red-haired beauty and knows the importance of ecological niches, knows at first glance that Mary Jane is a formidable rival. Mary Jane. Mary Jane's introduction was equally simple. Those who work in Hollywood certainly know the importance of ecological niche. After looking at Harry, who seemed to be completely unaware of the abnormal relationship between the two and even invited Xiao Xian to his home, Natasha still did not express her guess. Firstly, she had no evidence, and secondly, she did not want to ruin Xiao Xian's good deeds and leave a bad impression in Xiao Xian's mind. "I'm here today to seek help from the Osborn Group on behalf of S.H.I.E.L.D. Natasha went straight to the point. Chapter 106. Weird. S.H.I.E.L.D. seeks help from the Osborn Group. Harry was surprised when he heard this. S.H.I.E.L.D. still needs help from the Osborn Group. "We are facing an unprecedented threat," Natasha said slowly. "There have been a series of attacks on children in New York City recently. It is said that the attacker looks like a clown in a circus." "The Joker? Isn't that a supervillain from Gotham? How did he get to our side?" "Those guys from Wayne Company just like to overstep their boundaries, right?" Harry got angry immediately after hearing that. The people of Gotham didn't take the people of New York seriously at all. Not the Joker from Gotham, but a clown-looking supervillain who might even be a weirdo. Natasha shook her head. New York is also the home of S.H.I.E.L.D. If it was the Joker from Gotham, S.H.I.E.L.D. would not react like this. Or to put it another way, S.H.I.E.L.D. is an official organization in name only, but the major shareholder behind it is actually a political alliance headed by New York forces. These include New York groups such as Stark, Osborn, and Hammer Technology, as well as politicians such as the mayor and senators of New York, and even have close ties with senior military officials born in New York such as General Ross. These ruling classes of America are entangled with each other in the form of various overt or covert organizations such as S.H.I.E.L.D., foundations, secret societies, committees, etc. They are intricate, influencing each other, and cooperating with each other. This is one of the reasons why Xiao Xian and the White Queen still keep the shell of Harry and do not replace him immediately. Some things, with Harry's identity and bloodline, could be solved with just a word. If Xiao Xian or the White Queen were to do it, they might spend a lot of money but still not be able to get through the levels, or they might not even be able to find a way in. The White Queen is relatively safe. As long as her identity as a mutant is not exposed, she can easily get admission tickets to these organizations by controlling Oscorp. Then, she can use the power of money to expand her network and influence. By the time the White Queen's children take over decades later, they will most likely be top rich second generations like Harry. As for Xiao Xian, let's put other things aside. Just with his bloodline, once he stepped forward and took control of Oscorp, not only would he not get an entry ticket, but he would be targeted instead. If it weren't for his super regeneration, he might have committed suicide by being shot 7 times in the back that day. Weird. Harry showed a frightened expression when he heard this. Norman had told Harry a long time ago that weird was scary. Other people, whether they are humans or superhumans, even Commander America or Superman, will always take Harry's identity into consideration, but the monsters don't care about that. As long as Harry provokes the monsters, he will often end up dying a miserable death. As the saying goes, one who is willing to sacrifice his life can bring down the emperor. Even an ordinary person, as long as he does not care about his status in life and death, is worthy of fear for a rich man like Harry, let alone a weirdo with extremely strange abilities. You have to know that many weird things cannot be dealt with by existing technology at all. They are completely unreasonable. Even a Superman may be defeated when facing weird things. Just a weird videotape made Superman unable to sleep well every night. He was attacked by immortal monsters every day, and finally had to ask Wonder Woman for help. This is because Superman has thick skin and flesh and cannot be killed, so apart from being scared and unable to sleep, nothing serious happened. If it were someone else, even Commander America, after watching the videotape, he would probably have been killed that night. It is precisely because of the horror of the weird that all major organizations attach great importance to the weird. Once an unknown weird appears, they will try to eliminate or restrict it as soon as possible. In the eyes of the weird, there is no difference between the rulers and ordinary people. If you don't try to eliminate or restrict it, if you or your family members are drawn in the lottery, it will be fatal. Although the top leaders of major organizations claim to be noble, most of them are actually just ordinary people, and their survival rate when encountering strange situations is not much higher than that of ordinary people. Besides, even someone as strong as Superman will still encounter strange things that he cannot handle and that give him a lot of headaches. Moreover, if some of these anomalies are left unchecked, they may potentially destroy a country or even the world. For example, if that videotape were broadcast live around the world, the consequences would be disastrous. These organizations may be perfunctory and slow in handling other matters, but when faced with something that may endanger their own life and death, their efficiency soars. Yes, based on the existing intelligence, this clown is very likely a monster. Natasha nodded. If they were not worried that the other party was a monster and showed suspected growth characteristics, S.H.I.E.L.D. would not have asked for help so straightforwardly. Among all the monsters, the most terrifying are the growing ones. They may be unremarkable at first, but if left alone, they will soon grow to a level that requires a huge price to be paid to eliminate, and may even grow into a terrifying existence with the ability to destroy the world. This guy's current code name is the Joker. The weirdest thing about him is that children can easily recognize him, but adults often turn a blind eye to him and the consequences he causes, and subconsciously ignore his existence. Natasha said solemnly. The most terrifying thing is that one of the best captains of S.H.I.E.L.D. failed to notice the Joker until all his team members were killed and he was the only one left. Even his son was killed. He didn't realize the Joker was next to him until the headquarters asked him. But even so, the captain failed to find any trace of the Joker and turned a blind eye to the broken limbs and blood on the ground. You know, according to the existing intelligence, it has a variety of superpowers including shape-shifting, teleportation, and invisibility, and it seems to have the ability to grow stronger by relying on the fear of others. Among them, teleportation means that it could be anywhere in New York now, including here. After all, we are all adults and cannot detect the presence of the clown. What? This thing is so weird. Why don't we kill him right away? What does the Osborn group need us for? Harry felt a chill on his back when he heard this. There was actually such a terrifying creature. What would he do if it really came to his house? With such a terrifying ability, wouldn't it mean that even if it killed Mary Jane in front of him, he wouldn't be able to find out, let alone stop it? We need Osborn Corporation to provide a group of serum superpowers to participate in this operation. Lizard or spider serum will do. Experts believe that animal intuition or spider sense will be one of the key abilities to deal with the Joker, especially spider sense. Natasha said, of course, S.H.I.E.L.D. will give generous rewards and give Osborn Corporation a larger share of the weapons orders next year. Chapter 107. Pennywise wants to play with you. The lizard serum is okay, there have been several successful experimental subjects, but the spider serum research has encountered a bottleneck at the moment, and there are no successful experimental subjects for the time being. Harry shook his head. What about Spider-Man Peter Parker? How about putting a nanobomb in his neck and letting him take part in the operation, just like in Suicide Squad? Xiao Xian suggested that although Spider-Man did not have spider serum, he was bitten by a mutated spider developed by the Osborn Group. In essence, it was actually the same, at least on the surface. As for whether there was the choice of spider totem behind the scenes, that was unknown. Theoretically speaking, something that so many scientists at the Osborn Group could not come up with after so many years of human experiments, but happened when Peter Parker was bitten. From a probability perspective, the probability of such an event is basically zero. There is a high probability that there is a spider totem behind it. But this is the world of superheroes. The probability of such an event is not zero, but on the contrary, it is ridiculously high. It will happen whether there is a spider totem or not. Peter has been imprisoned in a top-secret research institute of S.H.I.E.L.D. since his last prison break. His hands, feet and torso are still separated, so it will take time to put them back together. He is also very hostile to S.H.I.E.L.D., so it would be very dangerous to choose him to participate in the operation. Natasha shook her head and rejected Peter Parker's suggestion to participate. Separation state. Xiao Xian's mouth twitched. If he really wanted to cause trouble, he would have to rely on these scientists. Xiao Xian didn't dare to imagine what kind of life Peter was living in the research institute. You can't take your head apart occasionally, study it, and then put it back together again, right? After conducting this kind of experiment on Peter, it seems reasonable that the people of S.H.I.E.L.D. would not dare to trust Peter even if they put a bomb in Peter's neck. After all, after experiencing all kinds of inhuman experiments, death might be a relief. How about Dr. Lizard? He has superpowers such as beast instinct and super regeneration, and his strength is not weak. Natasha proposed another candidate. Are you sure you can convince him to participate in the operation? Well, let me ask. Harry had no idea. Is there such a person in his company? It seemed that there was such a person. He had some impression of him, but not much. Dr. Lizard is one of our company's top supervillains. He has no shortage of money, but he has always dreamed of becoming a superhero. As long as S.H.I.E.L.D. agrees to help with the joint hype, it won't be difficult to get him to participate in this operation. Xiao Xian looked at Harry with disdain. Even his own company's top supervillain didn't know about it. If he didn't show his importance to Dr. Lizard, how could he ask for a high price from S.H.I.E.L.D. later? Besides, it would be a waste if he didn't take advantage of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s publicity channels. Wouldn't it be nice to let S.H.I.E.L.D. pay for it? As expected, the Osborn Group can only thrive on its own, and Harry has no control over it at all. His image is a little poor, but it's okay. The Fantastic Four also have the Stone Man, and our S.H.I.E.L.D. Ace team, the Avengers, also has the Hulk. Sometimes, ugly superheroes can poke some people. Natasha looked at the handsome Xiao Xian and said in a very easygoing manner. S.H.I.E.L.D. sent her here to use her beauty to make Harry give in, but now Natasha herself has completely fallen for Xiao Xian's beauty. It just so happens that this action has been confirmed to be an important event and will be promoted. If the Joker doesn't have the potential to be popularized, it will be adapted into a movie. All major companies will cooperate at that time. As long as Dr. Lizardman can play a role, he will definitely attract a large number of fans. In addition, S.H.I.E.L.D. also hopes that the Osborn Group will provide some intelligence and biotechnology support. Natasha then put forward S.H.I.E.L.D.'s request. No problem, everything will be fine as long as we destroy that clown. Harry waved his hand and said proudly, otherwise, that guy will run around New York. What if he runs to me? Stop talking such bad words. It was very hard for me to pretend that I didn't see anything. Upon hearing this, Xiao Xian subconsciously focused his attention on a clown with thick oil paint on his face in his peripheral vision. Ever since Natasha said it could appear anywhere including here, this guy came over, but he never took any action or did anything. Instead, he listened to the conversation with an interesting expression on his face. Xiao Xian pretended that it didn't exist and chatted calmly to gain benefits for the Osborne Group. Xiao Xian has now completed the task of taking charge of the Osborne Group. With the Green Goblin's superpowers, his physical fitness has been greatly improved, and his cells have also been strengthened. His flight, adsorption, and thermal vision have all been improved to a certain extent thanks to the increase in cell strength, and his combat effectiveness has soared. But Xiao Xian still doesn't want to provoke Pennywise. Although Pennywise was killed by several ordinary protagonists with their mouth cannons in the movie, in fact, his real body was not dead. This guy's real body is the evil god of the universe, and his evilness is even higher than Tommy. Xiao Xian doesn't want to have any connection with him. Controlling others, prophecy, illusions, shape-shifting, immortality, teleportation, manipulation of matter, manipulation of gravity. As long as there is enough fear, the Joker is nearly invincible. And one more thing, Pennywise in the movie is played by a male actor, but Xiao Xian seems to have read somewhere that in the original book, Pennywise is actually more inclined to be female, and it comes to Earth to have sex with men. This point is not shown in the movie, but Xiao Xian, who has an enhanced super charm, doesn't really want to gamble. After all, Pennywise's true form is closer to the giant spider. Compared to Pennywise, Xiao Xian would even rather choose Tommy. You can see me, right? Pennywise looked at Xiao Xian and suddenly smiled sinisterly. I smell fear in you. But I can't read your mind. Hearing this, Xiao Xian's expression remained unchanged, and he continued to listen attentively to the conversation between Harry and Natasha. But Pennywise seemed to be sure that Xiao Xian had noticed him, and he licked his lips. Your fear is more delicious than those children's. Oh! I will keep you in captivity and make you my exclusive toy. Sometimes, I really hate super charm. Complaining in his heart, Xiao Xian's eyes gradually turned red, and then 2 red lasers shot out from Xiao Xian's eyes, cutting the clown in front of him into 2 halves, and also cutting the wall of the house behind him. Ah! The sudden change caused Mary Jane to exclaim. After all, she was just an ordinary person. Faced with the sudden change, Mary Jane was frightened. Natasha subconsciously took a stance to fight the enemy, alert to possible enemies, but when she saw Xiao Xian's eyes suddenly emit lasers that only cut the air in front of her, Natasha immediately realized something and looked at Xiao Xian and asked. The Joker is here? Can you see it? Yes, I saw it. It might be because I was wearing an anti-telepathy helmet. Xiao Xian's eyes were still a little red, but soon returned to normal. The superpower strengthened Xiao Xian's cells, coupled with Xiao Xian's super regeneration ability. Xiao Xian's eyes can now withstand longer and higher power laser emissions. At present, what restricts Xiao Xian has changed from his body to hatred. The high power laser consumes too much energy, and the hatred is not replenished fast enough. After all, although Xiao Xian is now hated by many people, the hatred is not much. Most people do not hate Xiao Xian so much as they have resentment towards him. You have the ability of laser eyes again. Queen Bai was very shocked. How could Xiao Xian's superpower be the same as Bulk's? You're so irritable. Pennywise just wants to play with you. Pennywise stood up again after being cut in half, and turned into 2 small Pennywises looking at Xiao Xiandao. Since you don't want to, Pennywise will come to play with you later. After saying that, Pennywise ran away with funny steps, not very fast, as if waiting for Xiao Xian to chase her. But Xiao Xian did not stop Pennywise. Among the 4 people present, except himself who was slightly afraid of Pennywise, the other 3 were afraid of Pennywise, especially Harry and Mary Jane, who were so scared that their faces turned pale. It is almost impossible to kill Pennywise when he is afraid. Even if Superman comes and cuts him into 100 pieces with his heat vision, it will be useless. Chapter 108. Daredevil. As an adult super-powered person who can see Pennywise, Xiao Xian was also invited by S.H.I.E.L.D. to participate in the operation to eliminate Pennywise. If it weren't for his super charm, Xiao Xian would rather lend the anti-telepathy helmet to others than get involved in Pennywise's business, but now because of his super charm, Xiao Xian has obviously been targeted by Pennywise. Being targeted by the evil god Pennywise, it would be useless for Xiao Xian to run to Mars. It is better to face it than to escape. According to Xiao Xian's understanding, Pennywise is not actually bloodthirsty. Whether in the movie or the novel version, Pennywise actually has countless opportunities to kill the main character group, and it would not be difficult to even kill the entire town of Derry and even America, but Pennywise did not do so. Of course, Pennywise didn't do that, and it wasn't because he was kind-hearted, but because Pennywise, like Xiao Xian, did not actually rely on material survival and did not need to consume food in the usual sense. What Pennywise needs is similar to Xiao Xian's, except that Xiao Xian devours the hatred of others towards him, while Pennywise devours fear. Rather than killing people, Pennywise prefers to torture his prey, making them collapse in fear, and killing them bit by bit in extreme fear. Of course, the premise is that the other party's fear tastes delicious to Pennywise. For ordinary prey, that is, the passers-by NPCs in the movie, Pennywise would kill them relatively easily and taste the fear of the other party before death. From this point of view, Pennywise and Xiao Xian should be quite similar, in that quality has a greater impact than quantity. Another possibility is that, compared to things like the growth of strength, Pennywise actually cares more about the pleasure brought by swallowing fear. In pursuit of pleasure, Pennywise played tricks on the protagonists again and again, but he just didn't kill them. In the end, he overturned and was killed by several children of the protagonists. Of course, Pennywise is actually immortal, so after being killed, Pennywise was resurrected. However, after the resurrection, Pennywise still did not learn his lesson. He did not directly go on the stage and kill the protagonists with a spider spear. Instead, he used various means to intimidate the protagonists, and finally failed again. From a human perspective, Pennywise's behavior is completely incomprehensible. He flipped over for pleasure and eventually lost his life. This fact is too abstract. But from Pennywise's point of view, he would probably do it again if it happened again. After all, as an immortal and undead evil god, pleasure and fun are what he pursues more than so-called safety and no accidents. For Pennywise, who has lived for countless billions of years and has been on Earth for millions of years, a car accident only made him sleep for 27 years. Is that a big deal? Translated to humans, it is equivalent to a person in his 20s or 30s playing a game of League of Legends for half an hour, choosing Yasuo, with low health, and the 5 opponents standing together being knocked away by the Stone Man, and 5 dotted lines appear. At this time, should I choose to go home and recover for the sake of safety, or press the R key without hesitation? Admittedly, pressing the R key may result in death after the ultimate, but it is also possible to get a pentakill. As a Yasuo player, hesitating for a second is disrespectful to yourself. This time, after using the ultimate skill, he killed 2 people and then died. The grey screen went dark for half a minute before he came back online, and 5 white lines appeared again. Of course, he used the ultimate skill again without hesitation, without a second's hesitation. Of course, for Pennywise, the second death was a bit serious. The base was pushed and the game was lost directly, but it was just a matter of playing another game. After all, if all the main bodies of Pennywise died, that is, the people playing the game, there was actually nothing wrong. Next time, he would use the ultimate skill again. I found the information you were looking for. Natasha handed a piece of information to Xiao Xian and asked curiously, why are you looking for such a group of ordinary people? Found it? Of course I have my use. You can't normally see information about S.H.I.E.L.D. Xiao Xian took the information. Since there is Pennywise in this world, it makes sense for there to be the losers group in the movie, right? If possible, Xiao Xian hopes that they can replicate the performance in the movie and kill Pennywise with their mouth cannon, or even just make Pennywise offline for 27 years. After 27 years, Xiao Xian might be able to explode a star with one hand, or even be promoted to a dimensional demon god. Then he might not be afraid of Pennywise anymore. Wait! They're dead. Xiao Xian looked at Bill and others who were marked as dead in the information, and was confused. Could it be that because this is a superhero universe, the protagonist halo of these people is useless? Yes, it's clearly written in the information. On the night Spider-Man released the super criminal, they were having a party. Then only one person died, the girl named Beverly. I heard that these boys, especially Ben's boyfriend, saved her at the cost of their own lives. Natasha nodded and replied. In the past, she would have just sneered and thought that this person was not smart enough, but now Natasha felt that this was love, and if necessary, she could also sacrifice her life to save Xiao Xian. What's going on? Let me see which supervillain did this. Xiao Xian flipped through the information and was stunned when he saw the column for the murderer. Tombstone? What kind of third-tier villain? A third-tier villain killed them. But it seemed that they were just a group of ordinary people. They really couldn't beat the supervillain with superpowers. He is now locked up in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s laboratory. Do you want me to help you get him out? Natasha took the initiative to say this. As S.H.I.E.L.D.'s ace agent and one of the most popular female superheroes, Natasha has a lot of say in S.H.I.E.L.D. Forget it. Xiao Xian curled his lips. It seemed that he could not rely on others. He had to rely on himself at the critical moment. Should I contact Beverly? Natasha asked. She's in New York now. After thinking about it, Xiao Xian decided to meet her. Maybe the other party had information about Pennywise in this world. Even if not, after taking a look at the information about Beverly, she was just 18 years old at the time. She looked more like Sophie Lillis than Jessica Chastain in the second part. She looked very youthful, which was very rare in America. Call her over here. Xiao Xian said to Natasha. Okay, the Stark group sent Daredevil, who seems to have arrived now. Do you want to meet him later? Natasha nodded, and then said to Xiao Xian, he debuted earlier than you, and he also has a playboy persona, but I don't think he can compare to you in terms of appearance. Okay. Xiao Xian nodded and said that Daredevil's super hearing might indeed be useful. Chapter 109. Tactile Enhancement. It's just a touch, why are you so stingy? Daredevil covered his red face and complained in the room. Ah! As soon as Xiao Xian came in, he saw Daredevil covering his face and saying this. He was a little confused. What was going on? What happened? Xiao Xian asked Natasha with a puzzled look. He's harassing female agents again. This guy is a repeat offender. But in S.H.I.E.L.D., this guy just harasses them at most. Natasha rolled her eyes and said to Daredevil. Matt, this is Xiao Xian. He will be in charge of this operation. Xiao Xian. Daredevil walked up to Xiao Xian. His super hearing allowed him to use sound waves to see other people's appearances even without eyes. Is he very handsome? I think he's just so-so. But then again, why let this loser who only has super regeneration and adsorption abilities be the captain? This mission is to deal with monsters, not to hold a fan meeting. The female agent he had been dreaming of wouldn't even let him touch her, but was discussing how handsome Xiao Xian was and how they could get into his bed, which made Daredevil feel very unhappy. The most important thing is that Daredevil knows that his boss Tony Stark hates Xiao Xian very much. As a qualified subordinate, he must take the lead in charging against Xiao Xian. Of course, one has to pick on the weak. His boss also hates Superman. If it was Superman standing in front of him at this moment, Daredevil wouldn't even dare to fart. But Xiao Xian only had a super regeneration and a wall-climbing suction ability. Daredevil could beat him to his knees and beg for mercy with just one hand. Ahaha! Xiao Xian looked at Daredevil and was about to say something when the system prompt sounded in his mind. Ding! Mission, who is the boss? Triggered mission name, who is the boss? Mission description, this is a mission to fight against strange things. It is different from ordinary superhero activities. Daredevil has doubts about your ability. He thinks you are not qualified to lead the team to defeat Pennywise. Mission requirements, defeat Daredevil and make him and other team members recognize your leadership. Mission reward, Daredevil Enhanced Tactile Sense. Daredevil Enhanced Tactile Senses, modified. Daredevil's improved tactile enhancement ability allows you to consume hatred and greatly increase your sense of touch even while vision is still present. Tip, there will be special surprises when you activate this ability at special times. Changing passive to active is a good thing, otherwise Xiao Xian wouldn't really want this ability. After all, he has done a lot of self-sabotage due to super regeneration, and enhanced tactile sense may not necessarily be a good thing. As for what the system said about activating this ability at a special time bringing a special surprise, Xiao Xian roughly guessed what it was. Considering that superheroes in this world are corrupt and Daredevil's ability is passive and can't be turned off, Xiao Xian seems to understand why Natasha said that Daredevil is a repeat offender. This Daredevil is just possessed by a golden bug. You feel dissatisfied, don't you? Seeing the system task, Xiao Xian changed his tone and decided to have some fun with Daredevil. Of course, what's the use of super regeneration and wall climbing? It's better to be tortured by the monsters for a longer time or to climb walls everywhere. Daredevil snorted, looking down on Xiao Xian with great disdain, while not forgetting to please Natasha. Compared to you, I think the beautiful Miss Natasha is more qualified to be the captain. Daredevil dares to tease ordinary agents, but Natasha is one of the pillars of S.H.I.E.L.D. and a member of the Avengers. Her boss has been eyeing her for a long time. Daredevil dares not harass her, but if Natasha agrees, that would be great. How about this, let's have a fight. If you win, I'll let Natasha be the captain as you wish. Xiao Xian looked at the confident Daredevil and said, how about it? If I win, you just have to acknowledge my leadership. Anyway, Natasha listened to me. It didn't matter if I lost. If I won, the mission was accomplished. There was no loss anyway. Moreover, Xiao Xian glanced at Daredevil. This guy might be a master of fighting, but he had laser eyes, could fly, and had super strength and super regeneration that exceeded the limits of ordinary people. The probability of him failing was almost zero. Of course you can, but there is one thing. You have super regeneration, so I can't kill you at all. What if you insist on being stubborn and refuse to admit defeat? Daredevil thought about it and realized that if he lost he would have no actual loss, but if he won, not only could he humiliate Xiao Xian but he could also please Natasha. Not only could he please his boss, but if he was lucky he could even win the girl's heart. It would be a perfect win. As long as you can cause me a fatal injury in the ordinary sense, you will win. Xiao Xian smiled and said, let's fight one-on-one, real men, no surrender allowed, and fight until the winner is decided. How about that? You don't dare to do that, do you? Why not? Of course you are not allowed to use guns. It was a win-win deal, and with the goddess watching, Daredevil certainly couldn't be timid, so he said very straightforwardly. Xiao Xian's combat effectiveness group has an internal analysis report, except for the survival rate, the only other thing is the shooting skills. No problem, let's go to the training ground. The field there is large, and it will also allow other players to see my strength as captain. Xiao Xian suggested. Let's go. Daredevil also wanted to defeat the pretty boy Xiao Xian in front of the female agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He was obviously very handsome and a well-known superhero, but he was a little faster because of his strong sense of touch. In the past, he could occasionally hook up with a few female agents who didn't know about this. But this time, all the female agents' hearts were on Xiao Xian and they were all discussing Xiao Xian. However, the female agent Daredevil from S.H.I.E.L.D. did not dare to use force directly like they did outside. Daredevil felt very unhappy and very angry now. It was just right that he was not allowed to surrender so that he could beat Xiao Xian up and vent his anger. Maybe he could even conquer a female agent with his powerful strength. Following Xiao Xian and Natasha, Daredevil walked towards the training ground and thought to himself, this kid Xiao Xian has been confused by the flattery of his fans. Because he is handsome, the fans hype him up as if he is the best superhero in the world, and he really believes it. It is understandable that a man wants to show off in front of a beauty like Natasha. Daredevil also wants to show off, but it is wrong for Xiao Xian to show off in front of himself. What are you doing? When they met the stone man from Richard's agency on the road, the stone man asked Daredevil in confusion. Although they belong to different agencies, Daredevil and the Thing are good friends. The main reason is that both of them are old ladies, and one of them is too aggressive and can easily cause casualties, while the other is too fast and is afraid that it will affect his reputation. They both often go to the high-end underground club opened by Kingpin in New York. Although the club was obviously just an ordinary shopping mall, they kept running into each other in the parking lot, so it was no wonder that they had the same interests. After getting to know each other, they would occasionally go out together to hunt for beauties. After doing so many shameful things together, they became good friends. I want to spar with Captain Xiao Xian. Daredevil emphasized the word captain and said, come and see. Okay. Although he had no grudge against Xiao Xian, it was human nature to join in the fun when a friend invited him, so the stone man nodded without hesitation. Chapter 110. Nicknamed Little Superman. In the center of the training ground, a showdown is about to begin. The agents who came to watch after hearing the news were talking about it. Many male agents supported Daredevil and believed that Daredevil would be able to defeat Xiao Xian easily, while most of the female agents were looking forward to how Xiao Xian would turn defeat into victory. Natasha stood aside, her eyes calm but with a hint of expectation. She had great confidence in Xiao Xian's abilities. It's not too late to admit defeat now. It's no use begging for mercy later. You set the rule of not allowing surrender. Daredevil looked at Xiao Xian in a sarcastic tone. I'm looking forward to it. Xiao Xian smiled slightly and didn't take Daredevil seriously at all. The reason why Xiao Xian proposed this rule was that Xiao Xian needed to demonstrate his strength so that other members would recognize Xiao Xian's identity as captain. If the mission did not require this, Xiao Xian would not have been interested in playing with Daredevil. He was just a second-tier superhero. Xiao Xian could just send someone to kill him as a response to Iron Man's assassination attempt on him. The duel begins. Following the order from the shield instructor, Daredevil took out his exclusive weapon, the billy club, which was similar to a double stick, and rushed towards Xiao Xian. Looking at the rushing Daredevil, Xiao Xian put his hands on both sides, slowly took off, and looked down at Daredevil below. What? You can actually fly? Despicable! Daredevil cursed upon seeing this. I can do more than just fly. I used to try to get along with you guys as a superhero with ordinary abilities, but I got targeted. I won't pretend anymore. I'm going to reveal my cards. In fact, I'm not only handsome, but I'm also very strong in combat. Xiao Xian looked at Daredevil below and said, aren't you questioning whether I have the ability to be a captain? I'll show you right now that I don't have the ability to be a captain. Damn it! Daredevil cursed, but he turned his hand slightly and a nail-shaped hidden weapon was shot out from the inside of the billy club and went straight to Xiao Xian's forehead. Haha! With a disdainful sneer, with super reaction and cell strengthening brought by super power, Xiao Xian can now easily dodge this hidden weapon whose speed is not much faster than a pistol bullet. However, Xiao Xian did not choose to dodge. Instead, he reached out and grabbed the nail-shaped hidden weapon. Then, in the eyes of everyone present and the hearing of Daredevil, Xiao Xian easily bent the nail and threw it to the ground. How is this possible? This is titanium alloy. Daredevil said in disbelief. Wasn't he just an ordinary person with super regeneration and wall climbing abilities? How could he fly, have super reflexes, and have great strength? The speed of this hidden weapon was so fast that even Daredevil himself might not be able to dodge it, let alone others. Daredevil did not believe that Xiao Xian did not have a super reaction. Moreover, to bend the nail with his bare hands, Xiao Xian's physical strength must be a terrifying number, and he should be considered a body of steel. Super regeneration, super reflexes, super speed, man of steel, flight. Doesn't this guy even have heat vision? Why don't you change your name to Superman? Why didn't you tell me earlier that you are so strong? Isn't this bullying? Daredevil wanted to cry but had no tears. Looking at Xiao Xian flying in the sky, Daredevil realized that he could not be Xiao Xian's opponent. If the power gap between the two sides is not big, then the fighting skills that Daredevil is proud of can be useful, but after the opponent has super strength and super reaction, Daredevil's fighting skills are no longer of much significance. I surrender. Daredevil simply shouted his surrender. If the gap was not big, he could still fight for it. But now that the gap is so big, continuing to fight is not a fight, but a beating. You can't surrender in this game. Xiao Xian smiled slightly, his eyes gradually turned red, and said, what's more, there are more interesting things you haven't seen yet. Holy shit! You really have thermal vision. Feeling the rapid increase in the temperature of Xiao Xian's eyes, although he couldn't see it, Daredevil immediately knew what Xiao Xian was talking about. Referee! Referee! I surrender! Daredevil shouted frantically, he couldn't stand the thermal vision. 2 red heat rays shot out, easily melting the billy club in Daredevil's hand and leaving a deep hole in the ground behind. Ah! Daredevil screamed and shook his hands continuously, trying to throw away the melted alloy. He had not suffered this kind of pain for a long time since his debut. His usual opponents were all actors arranged by the company. The only time Daredevil went out to hunt for beauties, he hunted ordinary women. He had never attacked anyone with superpowers, and the most serious injury he had sustained was a bitten tongue. In the audience, the Stone Man, who had always been dismissive of the fight between the two, was finally moved after seeing the power of Xiao Xian's gaze. Things like flying, the power to bend alloys, and good marksmanship were no problem for the Stone Man. In terms of strength, the Stone Man claims that he is as strong as the Hulk, and even thinks he can compete with Superman, let alone Xiao Xian. All those messy things that Xiao Xian had shown before were just fancy stuff in the eyes of the Stone Man. They couldn't break his defense anyway. But thermal vision was different. Seeing Xiao Xian's thermal vision melting the alloy and penetrating the ground, the Stone Man didn't have the courage to resist. A superhuman who can fly, has high maneuverability, can emit thermal vision, and regenerate infinitely is too difficult for the Stone Man. At this moment, the Stone Man also recognizes Xiao Xian's strength and qualifications as captain in his heart. Dr. Lizard, who was also in the audience, showed a relieved expression when he saw this. Dr. Lizard had worked diligently in the Osborne Group for many years. Although he had made great achievements as a supervillain over the years, he had never had the opportunity to debut as a superhero due to his poor external conditions. Unless Dr. Lizard was willing to sign a B3 contract, there was no chance of a deal. After Xiao Xian joined Oscorp, he continued to rise in rank and finally debuted as the company's top S-class superhero. Not long after his debut, he topped the list of the most popular superheroes. Xiao Xian's experience made Dr. Lizard very envious, even jealous. He had worked diligently for so many years, developing the serum, playing the villain, and honing his acting skills and figuring out the character's psychology, but in the end, he was not as good as a superhero who could only perform super regeneration and climb walls, whose fighting ability was no different from that of an ordinary person, and whose acting skills were about the same as those of an idol star. Obviously, he himself also has super regeneration, but because of their appearances, their situations are so different. Every time Dr. Lizard thinks about this, he sheds tears of envy. But today, seeing Xiao Xian's powerful strength, Dr. Lizard said that he was convinced. This was not an ordinary person, but a smaller Superman, who was even more handsome than Superman. It was reasonable that he was more popular than himself. He slowly flew in front of Daredevil and stretched out his hand to pinch Daredevil's neck. Xiao Xian flew him into the sky, and with a little force of his hand, he pinched Daredevil's face and it turned red. Are you convinced? Am I qualified to be the captain? After slowly glancing at everyone present, Xiao Xian asked Daredevil, who was trying to struggle to pry his fingers open but was completely unable. Unable to speak, he could only reluctantly make a sound of agreement, and Daredevil nodded quickly. It is important to please your boss, but your own life is more important. Chapter 111. No fear. With the end of the game, Xiao Xian also completed the task and gained Super Touch. Although the Super Touch does not seem to have any special function except speeding up the battle time and amplifying the joy of battle, it is still a superpower that can control the switches by oneself, which may be of great use one day. All the information about the Joker from S.H.I.E.L.D. is here. Xiao Xian called all the team members together. Also, let me tell you about my personal understanding of the clown. The clown calls himself Pennywise, which of course may not be his real name. He enjoys scaring others and can transform into what others fear the most. I guess fear is most likely related to his ability. So when facing the clown, the key is to overcome the fear in your heart. I'm not afraid. The stone man folded his hands and said pretentiously. I have received professional training and can hypnotize myself to eliminate fear. Natasha also showed it in front of Xiao Xian. I'm too scared. Daredevil, who was covered in bandages and had swollen hands, said timidly. In fact, his hands had healed long ago with the special medical treatment of S.H.I.E.L.D., but Daredevil insisted on leaving the bandages just to play the victim in front of Xiao Xian. I am afraid of things, but I am confident that I can face them rationally. Dr. Lizard said confidently. As a scientist and biologist, Dr. Lizard has conducted many human experiments and is quite confident in his courage. Well, Natasha, Dr. Lizard, you take your men out to look for Pennywise's whereabouts. Remember to focus on searching the sewers. I found that the places where Pennywise committed crimes are highly related to the New York sewer system. Xiao Xian arranged the tasks for Natasha and others. As for Daredevil, you and I will stay in the base. Xiao Xian looked at the bruised and battered Daredevil and said, it's a good opportunity for you to recover from your injuries. Thank you so much. Daredevil was moved when he heard this. He didn't expect that Xiao Xian would let go of their past grudges and let him recuperate in the base. Don't thank me. Pennywise likes the smell of fear the most. Since you are scared, you will just be killed if you go out. It's better for you to stay in the base as bait like me. Xiao Xian pouted. Are you afraid of Pennywise? Why don't I stay in the base too? Natasha asked with concern. No, I'm not really afraid of Pennywise, it just said it would come play with me again, so I stayed here and waited for it to attack. Xiao Xian shook his head. Fear comes from the unknown. Most people would be scared when they saw Pennywise's illusion, but if they knew in advance that this was just an illusion created by Pennywise based on the things they feared in their hearts, then the degree of fear would naturally be greatly reduced. More importantly, Xiao Xian has super regeneration, and most of Pennywise's attacks are ineffective against Xiao Xian. Even if he is ground into minced meat and sprinkled into wine to make Xiao Xian brand red wine, Xiao Xian will not die. When the survival ability is maximized, the level of fear will naturally decrease. Things like big spiders, virus-infected people, murderers, etc., which are generally feared by people, are not a threat to Xiao Xian at all. Penny wheeze. Haha, I wonder if it can break my defense. The stone man smiled coldly and said confidently. If Xiao Xian was not afraid because he knew a lot, then the stone man was not afraid because he knew little and was extremely confident in his own defense. In the stone man's opinion, except for being ugly, unable to fly, and lacking thermal vision, he is on par with Superman in other aspects. When Superman encountered Monster, although he was tormented badly, Monster was never able to break Superman's defense. The stone man felt that his mobility and destructive power might not be as strong as Superman's, but his defense was not inferior to Superman. Since the monster could not break Superman's defense, then naturally it could not break his own defense. This is also the reason why the stone man is willing to listen to the persuasion of Mr. Fantastic and S.H.I.E.L.D. and participate in this S.H.I.E.L.D. operation. In that case, just take your equipment and props and set off. Seeing the stone man so confident, Xiao Xian didn't say much. Anyway, he didn't have to pay for the death compensation himself. Moreover, this mentality of the thing might be a good thing when dealing with Pennywise, as long as he doesn't act like I'm invincible in the world before he sees Pennywise, and please don't kill me after he sees Pennywise. I'm going to the bathroom. Seeing everyone leaving with weapons and agents, Daredevil looked at Xiao Xian with some fear and said. Before in the ring, when heat sight almost hit him and Xiao Xian strangled him, Daredevil almost thought he was going to die. Now that he was in the same room with Xiao Xian, Daredevil always felt that Xiao Xian's eyes would light up and his gaze would take him away in the next second. Although his name is Daredevil, Daredevil is not very brave. As for what Xiao Xian said about the clown coming, Daredevil didn't care. There were so many people in New York who were afraid of clowns, so the possibility of them finding him was very low. Besides, this is S.H.I.E.L.D.'s secret base. If the Joker wants to attack, he will attack those teammates outside who are looking for the Joker. Why would he pick on me? After whistling and flushing the toilet, Daredevil walked out of the men's restroom and used his super hearing to sense that there was no one around. With a turn of his eyes, Daredevil walked into the women's restroom. After locking the compartment, Daredevil took out the Stark Group's special micro-surveillance device from his tactical waste bag. This type of surveillance device was almost transparent and could not be seen without careful observation. Then he looked for a hidden place in the compartment. After looking around, Daredevil decided to hide it in the water. Putting his hand into the water, Daredevil felt that the water seemed particularly cold today. What's going on? Daredevil muttered to himself. The next second, a pair of cold hands suddenly grabbed Daredevil. Daredevil's super perception was so great that he didn't even notice it before the other party grabbed him. What the hell? Daredevil was startled and realized through the water waves that it was an extremely long hand. He wanted to pull his hand out immediately, but he couldn't shake the other party at all. Daredevil had no choice but to call for help. However, Daredevil was in the women's restroom now and it would be embarrassing if seen by others. The cold arm grabbed Daredevil's hand, making Daredevil's entire arm feel numb. Under the threat of death, Daredevil no longer cared about his reputation and yelled, "Someone come! Help!" Normally, yelling like that inside S.H.I.E.L.D. would definitely attract people, but at this moment Daredevil discovered in despair that no matter how he yelled, his sound waves could not pass through the compartment. If Daredevil didn't have super perception, he might have thought that maybe other people just didn't hear it, but at this moment, super perception told Daredevil that even if someone put their ear to the door of the toilet cubicle, they would not be able to hear his cry for help. Coincidentally, as soon as they said people, a female agent walked into the toilet. After Daredevil sensed the footsteps of the female agent, he roared even more desperately. However, no matter how Daredevil shouted, the female agent could not hear even a little bit of the sound. The sound waves were blocked the moment they encountered the toilet cubicle. Even the wallet that Daredevil tried to throw out of the compartment was bounced back. Chapter 112, Questioning Azu, Understanding Azu, Becoming Azu. The female agent was completely unaware of Daredevil's super perception. Knowing that Daredevil could not rely on others, she felt the cold and numb feeling gradually extending from her hands to her shoulders, and if she didn't care, it would spread to her internal organs. Daredevil's instincts told him that if the cold penetrated his heart, something very bad would happen. In fear of death, Daredevil gritted his teeth, took out a dagger from his waist with his left hand, and shakily chopped off his right elbow on the edge of the toilet. Ah! Along with a miserable howl, the knife sank into the arm but failed to cut off the arm. Firstly, Daredevil is not left-handed, so his left hand is not as strong as his right hand. Secondly, Daredevil couldn't bear to be cruel to himself, so he didn't use enough strength. Please, let me go. I will apply to withdraw from the operation and will not be your enemy. Will you, please? Lying next to the toilet, Daredevil pleaded with tears in his eyes. He. The only response to Daredevil was the clown's laughter coming from the sewer and the cold that spread even faster. Please let me go. Woo. Daredevil continued to beg, but it was of no use. In fear of death, Daredevil reluctantly pulled out the knife that was stuck between his bones. Ah! After wailing, Daredevil, with a pale face, pointed the knife at his wrist again, and then slashed it hard again. Perhaps because of the severe pain and cold, Daredevil's knife missed the target and did not penetrate the wound left by the previous blow. Instead, it created another cut on the side. Because he was more determined this time, the wound was deeper, but he still failed to cut off the arm. Oh! No! He pulled out the knife with great pain, blood flowed all over the floor. This time, Daredevil gasped in pain. Forcing himself to calm down, Daredevil aimed at the wound and chopped it down heavily. This time Daredevil did not miss, but directly chopped off his right hand. The moment the right hand chopped down, Daredevil covered the wound and fell backwards, staying as far away from the toilet as possible, while trying to leave the cubicle and seek help outside. With S.H.I.E.L.D.'s medical technology, as long as the severed arm is relatively intact and not too badly damaged, it can be reattached later. However, no matter how Daredevil tried, he could not break down the door of the compartment, not even with a knife. The door, which had been fragile before, now seemed like an iron wall. What made Daredevil even more desperate was that his severed right hand, in Daredevil's desperate eyes, turned from a broken arm into a black, ugly spider-like monster that pounced on Daredevil. Shit! Cursing loudly, Daredevil kicked the monster away and kicked it hard against the wall. Then Daredevil stabbed the spider-like monster frantically with a knife. The spider monster had an extremely strong vitality. Even after being stabbed several times by Daredevil, it continued to attack Daredevil until Dared cut it into pieces. Only then did the spider monster lose its life. Huff! Seeing the spider monster die completely, Daredevil finally breathed a sigh of relief and collapsed on the door of the cubicle. Then the next second, Daredevil saw a clown with twisted joints all over his body. His head seemed to have been twisted 180 degrees, staring at Daredevil with a smile on his face as he gradually crawled out of the toilet. Although it was the first time he saw it, Daredevil was very sure that this was the Pennywise that Xiao Xian mentioned. Damn it! Daredevil was pounding on the door frantically, watching the clown gradually crawling out of the toilet, and was almost scared to death, swearing and pounding on the door frantically. Daredevil was extremely regretful at this moment. If he had known this would happen, Daredevil would not have accepted this weird mission even if he risked owing Jin being a loan shark and not being able to pay it back. Before, Daredevil thought that no matter how scary Strange was, he could not be scarier than Kingpin. After all, Strange would not ask Daredevil, who owed him money, to fight in a black boxing match or drink with him, nor would he let Daredevil wake up with a sore butt the next day after drinking with him. But now Daredevil would rather drink with Kingpin and his guests than encounter this thing. Finally, when the Joker completely crawled out and adjusted his joints, Daredevil finally broke through the door that blocked him and crawled out of the toilet, shouting as he ran. Help! There's a monster! Pennywise! Pennywise! It's coming! What are you yelling about? Pennywise showed up? Where is he? Xiao Xian, whose clothes were a little messy, walked out of the room and looked at the yelling Daredevil. In the room, two beautiful agents, Sharon Carter and Maria Hill, also had their clothes a little messy and their faces were red. They kept fixing their messy hair with their hands and looked at Daredevil with very resentful eyes. Right behind me. Daredevil looked back at the empty corridor and was stunned. Didn't Pennywise catch up? Then. It should still be in the toilet. I met it in the toilet, and it crawled out of the sewer. Look at my hand, it was Pennywise who did it. Daredevil showed his right hand and said to Xiao Xian, get rid of it quickly. Are you teaching me how to do things? Xiao Xian glared at Daredevil in dissatisfaction and said coldly. Pennywise must have left by now, so it didn't really make any difference whether he went or not. The key point is, how dare Daredevil, a defeated opponent, speak to him like this? I'm sorry. Looking into Xiao Xian's eyes, Daredevil was about to show his hands in grievance and question Xiao Xian's sense of responsibility as the captain, but under Xiao Xian's gaze he didn't have the courage to refute, so he bowed his head humbly and apologized. If he didn't die at the hands of Pennywise, but escaped and was instead taken away by Xiao Xian's hot gaze, that would be too tragic. Daredevil looked at Xiao Xian's slightly red eyes and thought to himself, it would be great if Xiao Xian and that monster Pennywise could die together. Take me to see it. Seeing that Daredevil had given in so readily, Xiao Xian did not continue to dwell on it and turned to Daredevil. To be honest, no wonder Azio was so arrogant, Xiao Xian thought to himself as he watched Daredevil, who didn't even dare to talk back. The deterrence and control brought by violence are far more direct than those brought by money, power, charm, etc. Xiao Xian is still just a little Superman, and his ability is far inferior to Superman. But the superhuman of the hostile force like Daredevil has already done this to him, and this feeling is simply intoxicating. Xiao Xian didn't even dare to imagine how great it would be if he became a Superman. By then, let alone Daredevil, even if it was President America, standing in front of him and speaking in an impolite tone, Xiao Xian would make him kneel down and sing conquer, and it had to be the Chinese version with standard pronunciation. I'm a little scared. I'll take you there right away. Under Xiao Xian's threatening gaze, Daredevil withdrew his refusal and could only lead the way obediently. When they reached the toilet door and the dividing line between the men's and women's toilets, Daredevil said awkwardly, I heard some strange noises in the ladies' room and thought about going in to check out what was going on. I was mainly worried that a lady had been attacked by Pennywise. Chapter 113, Gangster's Exciting Punch. The group followed Daredevil into the restroom, but did not see Pennywise as Daredevil mentioned. Xiao Xian picked up Daredevil's wallet that was thrown on the ground. The money in it was gone, and instead there was a stick figure drawing of Pennywise holding a balloon. Xiao Xian personally felt that the drawing was not very good. Hand, yes, my hand. Seeing that Pennywise was not there, Daredevil quickly picked up his chopped-off hand from the floor of the cubicle. Looking at the extremely completely broken hand, Daredevil wanted to cry and said helplessly, my hand. Can it be reattached? The hand is in this state and it will be useless even if it is reattached. It's no better than an ordinary person's hand. Barbara Morse walked into the bathroom and complained. One of her female agents was taken advantage of by Daredevil today. She disliked Daredevil very much. What happened? Shouldn't you be responsible for contacting the superheroes outside? Xiao Xian asked Barbara. The thing is missing. He found traces of Pennywise in the sewer and chased after him, but he never came back. The locator for the thing outside also failed, said Barbara. Waste. Xiao Xian was stunned for a moment after hearing that, and then complained. He acted fearless during the meeting, but ended up getting killed. Fortunately, he didn't count on these people. Does Mr. Fantastic know about this? Xiao Xian handed the sketch left by Pennywise to a female agent from the identification department, and then asked, after all, he is a superhero of his company, and Mr. Fantastic has so many technological means, and the thing is his teammate. Maybe he can find it. Mr. Fantastic knows, but he said he can't talk to us alone. I can only tell you some information. Barbara glanced at Daredevil next to her and said that she originally wanted to whisper to Xiao Xian, but Daredevil had well-developed senses, and the so-called whisper was no different from shouting to Daredevil. Okay, let's come to the command room. Xiao Xian glanced at Barbara and said. Walking into the command room, Xiao Xian sat on a chair and looked at Barbara. What? Information can only be told to me. Mr. Fantastic means that S.H.I.E.L.D. does not need to make any effort to save the thing. He will not ask S.H.I.E.L.D. for compensation because of this. He even said that it would be best if the thing died. He can increase S.H.I.E.L.D.'s funding by another 10 million next year. Barbara sat on the chair opposite Xiao Xian and looked at him with a nympho smile. Oh, why? Aren't Mr. Fantastic and Stone Man friends for many years? They seem to be classmates, right? Xiao Xian glanced at Barbara who was sitting opposite him and asked with a raised eyebrow. The person opposite is definitely not Barbara, it is most likely Pennywise in disguise. Xiao Xian thought to himself that the real Barbara would never sit opposite him when they were alone in a room, she would only sit in his arms, and her collar would not be so high. Even if she was sitting opposite him, Barbara couldn't be so gentlemanly, her foot would have been extended long ago. It seems that Mr. Fantastic discovered that the thing had a crush on the Invisible Woman. Barbara explained, I heard that the thing stole the Invisible Woman's underwear to solve his physiological problems, and also secretly filmed the invisible woman using the restroom at the Fantastic Four's company. That's too abstract. Wait, could Daredevil go to the women's restroom just to take some secret photos? Xiao Xian clicked on the screen in front of Barbara, selected the command room, and pressed OK. It's possible. What are you doing? Barbara looked at Xiao Xian with a puzzled look. Why did Xiao Xian suddenly sound the alarm and put the command room on the highest alert? I suspect Pennywise is here. Be careful and don't get too far away from me, or I won't be able to protect you. Xiao Xian looked at the walls of the command room lighting up with runes one after another and said to Barbara, Pennywise. How did you find him? Where is he? Barbara exclaimed, and was about to move closer to Xiao Xian, but what she had to take was a heart-piercing blow from Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian was slightly floating in the air. At this time, Xiao Xian's hands could easily pierce through steel. He passed through Barbara's chest like tofu. He searched around, but did not find a heart in Barbara's chest. How did you find me? Barbara, whose chest was stabbed, changed her tone instantly. She no longer pretended, but looked at Xiao Xian and asked coldly. Consulting services have to be paid for. Xiao Xian rolled his eyes. He was not the stupid character in the movie. How could telling Pennywise about this kind of thing make it disguise better next time? How about your hand as a reward? Pennywise grinned, and the granulation tissue on the wound on his chest turned into countless fangs, which firmly clamped Xiao Xian's hand, and the coldness continued to spread along Xiao Xian's hand. I'll give it to you if you like it. Xiao Xian turned his left hand into a knife and directly chopped off the hand that was trapped by Pennywise. Then almost in an instant, Xiao Xian's right hand grew out again. Pennywise was stunned when he saw this. He looked at Xiao Xian's newly grown right hand, then looked down at the arm that was biting his chest. Normally, do humans have such a fast self-healing ability, and even if there was, how could this guy cut his own arm without even frowning? He. You're very funny. In order to maintain his image, the clown laughed, then pulled out Xiao Xian's right hand that was left on his chest, and ate it bite by bite, saying as he ate. Your meat is the most delicious I have ever tasted. Should I cooperate with you and scream and pretend to be scared to show respect? After a pause, Xiao Xian looked at the clown who was trying hard to perform. It seemed that it had eaten Xiao Xian's brand surveillance camera. I wonder what would happen if I chose Pennywise's flesh and blood as the regeneration core. Xiao Xian was very envious of Pennywise's abilities, but considering that Pennywise was the evil god of the universe and an old comrade who had lived for tens or even hundreds of billions of years, Xiao Xian felt that the possibility of himself taking over its body was really slim, so he decided to give up. It doesn't take much. Pennywise's memories of tens of millions of years can enter Xiao Xian's mind. It is a big question whether Xiao Xian can still maintain himself with his mere 2-digit memories. Aren't you afraid of me? Pennywise looked at Xiao Xian blankly. Before, Xiao Xian had a slight fear of him, but now this fear was almost gone. You should switch your appearance to clown mode before you say that. If you come out with a beautiful face to scare people, maybe it will make the pervert more excited when you meet him. Xiao Xian shook his head and teased. There are so many perverts in this world now. There are people like Sadako in her movies, and maybe there is someone like Pennywise as well. Moreover, this is a dark version of the superhero world, and maybe one of the superheroes has an unusual taste. Maybe the Stone Man would like this. When Xiao Xian thought of this, he was not afraid and even wanted to laugh. This is one of the methods Xiao Xian thought of to deal with Pennywise, a method of brain circuit jumping. The inspiration came from the barrage of protection he saw when watching horror movies in his previous life. No matter how scary the original plot is, once it is ridiculed by the weird comments of stupid netizens, it will not only not feel scary anymore, but may even feel a little funny. Chapter 114. Go and invite Superman. While Xiao Xian and Pennywise were chatting, the patterns on the wall became brighter and brighter, and finally after a certain critical point, the runes carved on the wall burst into dazzling light. Let's die together. I won't let you harm humans again. Xiao Xian looked at Pennywise and said with a righteous look. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. said that this magic circle could eliminate most monsters, Xiao Xian felt that S.H.I.E.L.D. was not very reliable. Originally, Xiao Xian wanted to use the power of S.H.I.E.L.D. to deal with Pennywise, but now it seems that there is nothing to hope for with a bunch of stupid teammates. Working with them will only drag himself down. What cowards and stone men are not as good as Beverly? At least in the original plot, she overcame her inner fear and defeated Pennywise with her mouth. Now this magic circle is one of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s trump cards against monsters. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, forget it. By bringing Pennywise here, I, as the captain, have exceeded my mission. Pennywise's true form is the evil god of the universe. Instead of fighting it head-on, it is better to fake his death and escape. Hiding in the dark can not only avoid Pennywise's pursuit, but also take a look at the background of these organizations in this world. If it doesn't work, Xiao Xian can clean up the mess. Anyway, if I fail I will just continue to be watched by Pennywise, so there is no harm in trying. It's just a pity to have the telepathic helmet on my head. I have to find a way to recover it later. As for whether Pennywise will grow up because of this is purely over-worrying of S.H.I.E.L.D. He is the evil god of the universe who has lived for billions of years and has been on Earth for millions of years. What's the big deal if he swallows fear for a few more days? You want to die with me? You're ready to face death. No wonder you're not afraid. Pennywise's body gradually disintegrated in front of the light. With his broken face, he looked at Xiao Xian, who was also shattered by the light, and laughed. It's a shame. This kind of thing might be useful for ordinary weirdos, but it has no effect on me at all. But your fear is so delicious, it's a pity to let you die like this. Pennywise said as he looked at Xiao Xian whose body was gradually dissipating. Just as he was about to rescue Xiao Xian, he saw Xiao Xian leaping towards him. The next second, the bomb in Xiao Xian's heart exploded, and blood and flesh covered Pennywise's face. This was the first time Pennywise had seen such a strong-willed person. What moved Pennywise the most was that Xiao Xian did not have much fear in his heart until his death. No one wants to play with Pennywise. Pennywise touched the flesh on his face and felt a little lonely. As an evil god, Pennywise has an endless lifespan. In order to relieve loneliness, Pennywise spends most of his time sleeping, occasionally coming out to hunt fear. Originally, Pennywise was not so anthropomorphic, but he absorbed too much human emotional power during the millions of years he was here. In addition, this body was originally human, so Pennywise was affected to some extent. Of course, the impact was not great. When Pennywise has lived on a planet for a long enough time, he will probably be influenced by that planet again. It may not take hundreds of thousands of years for Pennywise to throw away these anthropomorphic things. In essence, it is similar to a game nerd who plays the same game every day. The key operations and so on have become subconscious. After playing a different game for a while, he becomes accustomed to the new one. As Pennywise's somewhat sad voice sounded, the brightness of the runes in the room reached its maximum, as if to annihilate Pennywise completely. But when Pennywise opened her mouth, 3 constantly moving spots of light burst out with an even stronger light, causing the runes on the wall to instantly dim and even begin to crack. Sorcerer Supreme, the magic circle you set up for the S.H.I.E.L.D. base has collapsed. In the New York Sanctuary, Baron Mordo reported to the Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One. I know. Ancient One just glanced at Baron Mordo and then said lightly. Should we go and support them? Baron Mordo asked. You seem to care about them. Guyi glanced at Baron Mordo and asked. No, I just think they need help. Kamar Taj has the responsibility to protect the earth. Baron Mordo explained in a panic. Do you think I don't know that you accepted their money and benefits? Ancient One looked down at Baron Mordo and said, I was going to turn a blind eye to your hard work over the years, but I didn't expect you to turn your elbow outward. My Lord Supreme Sorcerer, I didn't do that. I just thought they needed help, Baron Mordo said hurriedly. Oh. In that case, go and help them. Ancient One looked at the panicked Baron Mordo and said, come back when you have defeated 10 monsters. Yes, sir. Baron Mordo didn't even dare to look up and saluted to Ancient One. Of course, in his heart, Baron Mordo had already planned to defect. It was very strange. Baron Mordo felt that Ancient One was deliberately forcing him to leave. If he couldn't defeat the Ancient One, Baron Mordo would really like to fight back and give him a big fight. The magic circle left by Ancient One has been destroyed, the Stone Man is missing, Daredevil is disabled, Xiao Xian is suspected to have died, and the Joker is definitely a weirdo, and a very strong one at that. Currently, the personnel in the base have been evacuated, and a large number of low-level agents have died. S.H.I.E.L.D. Senior Video Conference, Nick Fury told the Security Council we need the support of the Ancient One. S.H.I.E.L.D. alone cannot handle this level of weirdness. We can't contact the New York Sanctuary. Ancient One refused to take action, saying it was fate. A female member of the Security Council said helplessly. Where is Baron Mordo? Didn't he say he was sure he could convince Ancient One? Last time, I had to give up that succubus to him with great reluctance. Asked another grey-haired old man. Don't count on him. He was kicked out by Ancient One and still hopes that we will take him in. The female member rolled her eyes and complained. What? Such a useless thing. I'll send someone to kill him and take back all the things. Succubi are a scarce resource. But what should we do next? Ask Professor X for help. The male congressman suggested. Professor X's ability is too foul. It's easy for him to discover our secrets. And it's said that many members of parliament are secretly controlled by him. The female member of parliament rejected the male member's proposal and said, how about Superman? He should be able to deal with the Joker, right? I heard that Xiao Xian's thermal vision cut the Joker in half. After the Sadako incident, Superman has been very resistant to strange events. Plus, we don't get along with those guys in Gotham, and Bruce won't help us persuade Superman. It's almost impossible to persuade Superman. I do have a way to invite Superman. Nick Fury said confidently at this time. Chapter 115, Low Physical Damage, High Mental Damage. Xiao Xian just publicly supported Superman when Superman cheated on his female teacher. Superman also publicly stated that he and Xiao Xian are good brothers and he is very grateful for Xiao Xian's support. Nick Fury said sinisterly in his iconic trench coat, as long as we spread the news that Xiao Xian was killed by a strange person and hype it up online, Superman will definitely come to help in order to protect his fans and public image. Nick Fury got inspiration from Osborn's previous operations. Osborn's operations might be able to deceive the eyes of others, but they could not deceive Nick Fury. However, Nick Fury did not choose to tell Stark about this. The reason was very simple, that is, he hated Stark. This guy called Nick Fury a one-eyed man and a blind man to his face more than once. If Stark was not a major shareholder of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury would have sent someone to kill Tony long ago. I think I can give it a try. A female congressman thought for a moment and said that as a congressman, she understood best how many unwilling things people could do for the sake of their public image. Basically, more than half of her work tasks were to maintain her work image, and the biggest crisis was also a public image crisis. If it weren't for her public image, she would have divorced her husband and gone their separate ways long ago. Of course, they are still going their separate ways now, but she still has to go home every night to face that disgusts her. Then let's do this, but what if Xiao Xian is not dead? The male congressman nodded in agreement, but he had doubts about Xiao Xian's death. When Spider-Man Peter Parker was first arrested, Xiao Xian seemed to have demonstrated the ability to transfer his body after death. This was information obtained from Peter Parker's brain when he was conducting human experiments on Spider-Man later. Therefore, the targeted measures that the Bureau had planned for Xiao Xian were changed to anesthesia and imprisonment, rather than killing him and burying him. Of course, only a few companies in New York and S.H.I.E.L.D. knew about this. After all, Xiao Xian was also a contracted artist of S.H.I.E.L.D. in a sense. This kind of information would not be told to Gotham, Midtown and other forces. If we lock him up before Superman comes and wait until the storm has died down, but if he comes after Superman comes, is he going to watch Pennywise endanger New York? We can just broadcast the whole thing live and see if Superman still wants his hundreds of millions of fans. Nick Fury said confidently, playing a game of moral kidnapping. What? In Metropolis, Superman looked at the obituaries issued by Oscorp and S.H.I.E.L.D., with a confused look on his face. Did Xiao Xian die together with the weird clown for the sake of the people of New York? Is this something Xiao Xian could do? And doesn't he have super regeneration? It seems to be true. Xiao Xian led the clown into the magic circle, and then activated the magic circle to try to die with the clown. In the end, the clown survived, but Xiao Xian was completely destroyed. It is said that everything in the magic circle will be destroyed, not even a single cell will be left. So this time Xiao Xian may really not be able to super regenerate. The female assistant explained that her source of information was Wayne Company, and that S.H.I.E.L.D. and Osborn had also made relevant evidence public. Also, weirdness could be the cause of Xiao Xian's death. After all, weirdness is something very strange. This guy wanted to gain fame, but he didn't expect the magic circle would destroy every cell in his body. Even super regeneration can't save him. He's in trouble, right? Haha. Is he kidding me? Upon hearing this, Superman immediately guessed that if it were Superman himself, he would do all kinds of things for fame. He watched the videotape for the sake of fame. He regretted it afterwards, very much. Ghosts would appear on TV in the middle of the night every day, keeping Superman awake, and even took away several of Superman's female companions. Smashing the TV is useless, and the phone and computer screen can also be climbed. Reading fan messages and interacting with fans is a must-do for Superman every night before going to bed. This is really impossible to quit. Superman also tried to crush his phone before going to bed after reading it, but Sadako still appeared that night, and it seemed that she crawled out of the bed. Superman thought it would be better to let her crawl on the TV, at least in this way he would not wake up in the middle of the night and find himself sleeping with a cold person. Although the guy who crawled out could not cause any substantial harm to Superman, the physical damage was not high, but the mental damage was great. Who could bear to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and see Sadako in their bed? The key point is that Superman was happily checking fans' messages on his phone, but under Sadako's influence, the screen of his phone became distorted and then played the content of the original videotape. With his own previous experience, Superman felt that Xiao Xian must have dealt with the weirdness for the sake of reputation. He said that he didn't care about the ranking, but he secretly dealt with the weirdness. Now he has failed. These days, thanks to Xiao Xian's call and whitewashing, Superman returned to second place in the most popular rankings. Originally, there was still a big gap between him and Xiao Xian. Superman was worrying about how to catch up, but Xiao Xian suddenly failed and he once again became the first in the most popular superhero rankings. Of course, the living no-ones are strong opponents and teammates who can fight and cooperate with each other. The dead no-ones are purely for show. Superman is very greedy for Xiao Xian's fan base. Immediately ask the best shooter to help me draft a long and heartfelt article in memory of Xiao Xian. Don't use a template. Make it appear sincere. Also, ask them to cut off half of the cape of my new battle robe and say it's a memorial to Xiao Xian. He has a family and stuff. Prepare generous gifts and reporters for me. I want to visit him as soon as possible. Superman couldn't wait to tell his assistant that this was a great opportunity to show off. Xiao Xian had so many fans, and if he could attract 10% of them, he would make a fortune. If the murderer who caused Xiao Xian's death was not weird, Superman would have to rush to take revenge. Although he is confident that he is invincible and that monsters cannot break his defense, Superman is still very wary of strange existences like monsters. The shooter for Changwen is on his way. I will go cut the cape later. The family members don't seem to have heard about it, but there are rallies mourning Xiao Xian everywhere. Many girls are crying their hearts out. Hundreds of people have been rushed to the hospital. The female assistant replied. Great, which gathering has the most people? Superman became excited when he heard this. This was a great opportunity to win people's hearts. Of course it's New York, where Xiao Xian is most active. My boss asked me to write a set of scripts for you. If fans ask you to take revenge, you just say it according to this and put the blame on S.H.I.E.L.D. The female assistant said as she handed a note to Superman. Superman looked at the note. Of course Xiao Xian and I are good friends, and I also want to avenge him, but S.H.I.E.L.D's secret base is S.H.I.E.L.D's top secret. Unless S.H.I.E.L.D. requests it, I don't know the location and I don't have the authority to go there. And I believe that with the strength of S.H.I.E.L.D., they will be able to properly handle this incident. They are a professional agency that handles bizarre events, spending hundreds of billions of dollars on military expenditures every year. With superhero teams like the Avengers, they will definitely be able to defeat the bizarre events. Unless S.H.I.E.L.D. is completely shameless and doesn't want next year's military funding, they will definitely not openly ask you for help. The female assistant said, besides, the headquarters of the Avengers is in New York. If this incident is not handled well, what qualifications does the Avengers have to be on par with your Justice League? Chapter 116. Revenge for Xiao Xian. An unprecedented rally was underway on the streets of New York, with fans in the crowd, wearing all kinds of souvenirs and clothing representing Xiao Xian, in tears. Between the high-rise buildings, huge electronic screens played the footage that Xiao Xian had filmed in the past in a loop. His handsome face made fans obsessed with him. Superman was wearing a new battle suit with his cape cut in half, symbolizing his deep mourning for Xiao Xian. He was suspended in the air, looking at the densely packed fans of Xiao Xian below, who were crying their hearts out, much more so than his own fans. Even the most hardcore of his own fans were only at an upper-middle level. Looking at these fanatical fans, Superman couldn't help but feel a little jealous of Xiao Xian, but then he thought, Xiao Xian is dead anyway, why should he be jealous of a dead person, Landing on the platform set up by the staff, Superman picked up the microphone and said, "Thank you very much for coming to say farewell to my good brother Xiao Xian today." Superman. Hearing Superman's voice, some fans looked at Superman and shouted revenge for Xiao Xian. Revenge! 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 The fans' voices quickly unified and shouted at Superman. "I know that everyone is very sad and eager to avenge Xiao Xian. Believe me, I am just as eager to avenge Xiao Xian as everyone else. He is one of my best brothers." Superman said according to the pre-prepared words, and did not forget to add some improvisations. "If I ever encounter the monster that killed Xiao Xian, I will mercilessly burn it to ashes with my thermal vision." Superman. Many supporters in the audience shouted along with the rhythm, "You are a real superhero. Mr. Superman, if you can avenge Xiao Xian, I will become your fan, and I will get all my friends and family to support you." A young female fan said to Superman excitedly. Her eyes were full of tears and her emotions seemed very appropriate. If Daredevil were here, he would recognize that this was one of the female agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. "Thank you for your enthusiasm, but S.H.I.E.L.D.'s secret base is S.H.I.E.L.D.'s top secret. Unless S.H.I.E.L.D. requests it, I don't know the location and I don't have the authority to go there." Superman pretended to be helpless and continued according to the script. "And I believe that with the strength of S.H.I.E.L.D., they will be able to properly handle this incident. They are a professional agency that handles bizarre events, spending hundreds of billions of dollars on military expenditures every year. With superhero teams like the Avengers, they will definitely be able to defeat the bizarre events." No. Many fans showed disappointed expressions when they heard this. Isn't this just waiting for an official statement? "We will be fans of whoever avenges Xiao Xian." A female fan shouted, "Our Xiao Xian is my husband fan club. 380,000 members jointly promise that whoever avenges Xiao Xian will be our second most popular idol after Xiao Xian for the rest of our lives. Our Xiao Xian I want to give birth to you fan club is the same." 680,000 fans signed a joint letter. "We will never regret it. And our Xiao Xian is the most handsome fan club has 3 million fans. And us." For a while, similar voices were heard one after another, and even gave Superman a feeling that whoever avenged Xiao Xian would inherit Xiao Xian's fan base. Look! A female S.H.I.E.L.D. agent has revealed the location of the secret base. She is calling on fans who are capable to avenge Xiao Xian. Suddenly, a fan exclaimed, and happened to see a short video. In the video, a female agent looked at the camera and said, "I know this is against S.H.I.E.L.D.'s rules and regulations, and I also know that S.H.I.E.L.D. will send people to eliminate the monster in no time, but I really don't want to wait even a second. Because that monster killed my idol, Xiao Xian. So I thought about it and made a decision that violated S.H.I.E.L.D.'s rules, to disclose the location of the secret base and call on capable superheroes to avenge Xiao Xian." As if it was a pre-planned plan, many fans took out their mobile phones and clicked on the video to show it to people around them. The location is indeed public, but Superman was thinking of following Bruce's backup plan and refusing to go to fight the weirdness on the grounds that he must abide by the law and cannot enter the secret base of S.H.I.E.L.D. without S.H.I.E.L.D.'s invitation. A female fan burst into joy and shouted, "Ha ha ha! That's great! The Hulk is on his way to the secret base. According to insiders, the Hulk is a perfect match for that monster. He will definitely be able to avenge Xiao Xian." Really? That's great! If the Hulk can defeat that monster and avenge Xiao Xian, from now on, my whole family and I will be fans of the Hulk. The Hulk is so strong. Love it! Love it! I'm going to vote for the Hulk on the most popular superhero list right now. Ahem! Upon hearing this, Superman immediately had the illusion that if he didn't go there, someone else would snatch the head away. But when he thought about it carefully, it was just a weird thing, which would disgust him at most. It couldn't really hurt him anyway. At worst, he could go to Paradise Island again and ask Diana to help him get rid of it. The key is to avenge Xiao Xian, because that is the one who can inherit Xiao Xian's fans. Although Xiao Xian's fighting ability is nothing in his eyes, the fighting ability of Xiao Xian's fans is many times stronger than his own fans. There are a lot of people online who dare to criticize me, but there are very few who dare to criticize Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian's fans are good at opening boxes. Not only do they criticize people fiercely online, they also initiate offline confrontations. For the sake of so many powerful fans, it is not unacceptable to be disgusted a little. Generally speaking, ordinary weirdness is not so easy to disgust oneself. The last one was just a rare exception. Thinking of this, Superman said to his fans. Since the location of the secret base has been made public, I can't ignore the weirdo who hurt my good brother. Superman slowly rose into the air and shouted to the fans in the audience. Please. Rest assured, I will definitely defeat the monster and avenge Xiao Xian. Superman. 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 The fans in the audience cheered upon seeing this. Although they were fans of Xiao Xian, they also knew that Xiao Xian was an idol-type superhero, mainly because he was handsome, while Superman was a powerful superhero, who was always ranked first in the superhero combat power rankings. There was actually nothing wrong with Bruce's rhetoric. He even guessed S.H.I.E.L.D.'s plan to disclose its secret base and had thought of a countermeasure. As long as S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't take the initiative to invite Superman, he will have an excuse not to go. If S.H.I.E.L.D. takes the initiative to ask Superman for help, it will prove that they are unable to fight against the monsters. Not only will it damage their reputation, but it will also show that they are not worthy of so much funding every year. Next year, the I will be able to take a large sum of funding from S.H.I.E.L.D., and then the benefits to Wayne Group and Superman will definitely not be small. But not everyone is a rational person who makes decisions based on maximizing benefits. Although Superman has a super brain, he still lost himself in the calls of handsome boy from his fans. Chapter 117. Superman Failure. Falling from the sky, the shock wave of Superman's landing stirred up a circle of dust. After posing for a while, Superman slowly stood up and looked at the agents and soldiers around him and said, "Is everyone okay? We have no idea where it is, but constant events indicate that the Joker is here," an officer said to Superman. "I will catch him the next time he attacks," Superman said confidently. He patted the officer on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Relax. I will kill that clown today." As he spoke, Superman took the entire battlefield into his perception. As long as the Joker made a move, Superman would be able to discover it. "Oh! It's taken action. How dare I be so rampant here?" Superman smiled slightly, then disappeared in an instant, and then appeared next to a broken wall. A pale, long hand was grabbing a terrified soldier and dragging him to a sewer entrance under the broken wall. A hot sight cut off the hand. Superman grabbed the severed wound, and then pulled hard, pulling out Pennywise with thick oil paint on his face. "You are not from Earth." Pennywise, who was pulled out, did not show any panic. Instead, he looked at Superman with a nostalgic look and said, "This smell, you are from Krypton. You weirdo, you know a lot." Superman looked at Pennywise and sneered, then rushed forward and tore off all of Pennywise's hands and feet like tearing dough. "That's all." Throwing Pennywise's hands and feet down and looking at Pennywise who had lost his limbs on the ground, Superman said with disdain. If he had known this guy was so useless, he would have flown over directly. It turned out that the psychological trauma left by the Sadako incident last time was too big, causing me to be timid. After all, how many monsters in this world can bring me trouble? Shaking his head in self-mockery, Superman couldn't help but find it a little funny that he was too cautious before. It was just a mere weirdness. Wasn't it easy to deal with? At this moment, a strange laugh suddenly sounded in the air, but Superman was very sure that the sound was not made by Pennywise on the ground with his limbs torn off. Super hearing quickly locked onto the source. Superman saw that the limbs of Pennywise that he had just torn off and thrown away turned into spider-like monsters, flying towards Superman. Their legs were as sharp as spears, stabbing straight at Superman, as if they wanted to pierce him through. A disdainful smile flashed across Superman's face, and his eyes were full of contempt for the abilities of these monsters. If he was disgusted by the weirdness, he might be a little scared, but physical attacks and nuclear bombs could not break Superman's defense. Sure enough, when these spider-shaped spear tips came into contact with Superman's skin, which was as hard as steel, they broke in the face of this incredible hardness, making a crackling sound, just like fragile branches hitting hard rocks. Superman stretched out a hand, as if selecting an unfortunate target, and quickly grabbed one of the spider monsters that tried to get behind him. Superman's movements were easy and graceful, as if he was slapping a nasty bug. With just a light slap, the unfortunate little monster was smashed into pieces, turning into a pile of minced meat that no longer posed a threat. Then, without hesitation, Superman turned to the remaining 3 spider monsters. His movements were swift and precise, and he easily crushed them one by one, like crushing empty shells that could not resist. Each monster could not survive for more than a moment under his feet. Their bodies were like thin paper in front of Superman's strength and were easily torn apart. In less than half a second, all 4 monsters created by Pennywise were killed. It's your turn next. Looking at Pennywise, Superman's eyes began to glow, focusing a powerful beam of light that went straight through Pennywise's body and scorched the surrounding area. As Superman's eyes moved, Pennywise's body was completely scorched, turning into a pile of charred wreckage that no longer moved. Done. Superman crossed his arms, thinking to himself, as expected of me. Then the charred remains of Pennywise suddenly began to twist and deform, and a huge image gradually took shape. It was an enormous spider, each of its eyes flashing with strange light, its 8 long legs moving on the ground, making creepy sounds, and a strange hissing sound coming from its mouth, as if declaring war on Superman. You have quite a strong vitality. Superman complained and slowly took off, lowering himself to a high enough height to look down at the giant spider. He looked down at the giant spider and said disdainfully, "Ordinary superheroes may not be your opponent, but unfortunately, you are facing me today." As long as he is still on the physical side, Superman is not afraid no matter how big or strong it becomes, because even if the giant spider becomes as big as Gundam, Superman is confident that he can easily defeat the opponent. Superman is afraid of monsters like Sadako, who are extremely strange and weird, cannot be killed or hit, look scary and reduce his sleep quality, and occasionally create scary hallucinations that affect his normal life. It is said that there are a lot of such monsters in Neon, so Superman is reluctant to go to Neon. The giant spider launched a frantic attack on Superman. Its 8 thick spider legs were like 8 sharp spears, stabbing at Superman from all directions, trying to penetrate his nearly impeccable defense. However, even such a powerful attack seemed like an ant trying to shake a tree in front of Superman, and it was completely unable to break through his defense. Superman's eyes flashed with a sharp light, and his heat vision was like a blade, cutting the giant spider's legs accurately. With a casual pull, the spider's joints broke like paper. After a while, the giant spider monster became powerless to resist, and all 8 legs were dismantled. Its huge body struggled on the ground with only its remaining strength. Hee hee. Superman looked at the spider whose limbs were easily torn off by him with disdain, and then Superman's eyes were fixed on another fatal part of the giant spider, the sharp giant spider fangs. This pair of spider fangs, my trophy, would feel nice to place at home as a decoration, and it can also serve as a symbol of how I have overcome my fear of weird things. Thinking of this, Superman flew to the front of the giant spider like a flash of lightning, ready to take the trophy from the enemy. However, just as Superman was pulling out the giant spider's fang, the giant spider's mouth opened 270 degrees against physics, revealing 3 constantly rotating spots of light deep inside. 3 fast-rotating light spots emit a strange glow that makes people unable to help but indulge in it. Looking at this strange light, Superman suddenly fell into an unprecedented illusion. These illusions were not just visual distortions, but they were like being there, penetrating into the depths of Superman's mind and touching the fear and anxiety that he was most reluctant to face. Chapter 118. The Power of Fear. In the illusion, Superman saw himself being spurned by the whole world. On the streets, countless people walked out of their homes, holding posters and logos of Superman with crosses drawn on them, with expressions of anger and disgust on their faces. Among these people, there were some faces that Superman once knew, they were all his die-hard fans, and their transformation made Superman feel deeply painful and desperate. Superman also saw Lois, his wife, standing at the door holding their child, with a cold look in her eyes. Lois's voice was clearly heard by Superman, "We are getting divorced." Superman's child also looked at Superman with disgust. This scene was like a sharp knife piercing Superman's heart, making him feel suffocated. The pain in the illusion did not end there. Superman then saw Xiao Xian floating in the air, looking down at him, as if he was looking at a loser. The next second, Xiao Xian's eyes shot out hot rays that penetrated Superman's body. Superman was trapped in the illusion, suspended in the air. At the same time, the giant spider's body began to heal rapidly, returning to its original state in just a few seconds. After recovering, Pennywise hit Superman, who was floating in the air, with a spider spear, but Superman didn't move at all, but broke Pennywise's spider spear. Pennywise looked at Superman helplessly, this Kryptonian was too strong. When Pennywise was in Krypton, she remembered that Kryptonians were not so outrageous. Although Pennywise's essence is high enough, this body is essentially that of an ordinary earthling. It is already good enough that he can transform into a spider and easily cut through steel. Superman's defense is truly abnormal. Pennywise estimates that in order to break Superman's defense from a physical perspective, he has to use this body as a one-time use and project a force beyond the body's endurance limit. But Pennywise found this body quite convenient to use and was reluctant to change it. Fortunately, although Superman is very powerful and has full physical abilities, his mental resistance is not much stronger than that of ordinary people, and may even be worse than some people with strong will. After taking a last look at Superman, the giant spider turned back into Pennywise's form. Pennywise went into the sewer. Having absorbed a lot of fear today and stretched her muscles, Pennywise was going back to rest. Ah, this. Xiao Xian rolled his eyes speechlessly after seeing Superman floating in the air like a balloon on the live broadcast on his mobile phone. It seemed that he had to do it himself. It's stronger than before. Beverly looked at the picture on her phone and said, "We kids defeated it back then, but now even Superman can't defeat it. It's not that it has become stronger. For most people, the key to fighting Pennywise is not strength, but courage." Xiao Xian looked at Beverly, who still had a childish look on her face, and said, "Do you still remember Pennywise's old nest?" "I remember." Beverly nodded and said, "I will probably never forget that place for the rest of my life." "Do you still dare to go?" Xiao Xian asked. If Beverly has lost her courage, it would be better not to take her with you. "Will you come with me?" Beverly did not answer directly, but looked at Xiao Xian and asked. "Of course, I will kill Pennywise with my own hands," Xiao Xian said as he looked at the task that just popped up in his sight. Ding! Mission: Who is the hero? Triggered mission name: Who is the hero? Mission description: Pennywise defeated Superman and became the most famous monster in the world. Defeat him and you will prove that you deserve the title of the world's most popular superhero. Mission requirements: defeat Pennywise. Mission reward: Pennywise Fear, revised. Pennywise Fear, modified. Pennywise's ability to absorb fear has been improved, removing the weakening effect of others overcoming their fear of you, but retaining the effect of absorbing fear. You can use the fear of others towards you as a source of your strength. After seeing the effect of Pennywise Fear, Xiao Xian finally understood why Pennywise had fallen into the hands of several children. It turned out that Pennywise had the ability to become stronger by absorbing fear, and that he would be weakened when others overcame their fear. In the movie, after several people overcame their fear, the originally gigantic Pennywise became smaller and smaller, and finally turned into a mini clown who had difficulty walking, and was killed by everyone by having his heart dug out. However, this ability targets Pennywise rather than the death ray. Considering that the death ray flew away after Pennywise's death in the movie, this effect is most likely useless against the death ray. Before obtaining thermal vision, this skill might not be of much use to Xiao Xian, because other people's hatred towards him had long been overloaded. But now with thermal vision, whether it is hatred or fear, the more emotional power the better for Xiao Xian. More importantly, this ability comes from Pennywise. Although it looks ordinary, its potential is immeasurable. Except for buggy superheroes like Superman, the abilities of monsters are generally more buggy than those of superheroes and supervillains. Just like the super regeneration that came out of Tomy, Xiao Xian thought it was just a life-saving skill at first, but it actually changed the essence of Xiao Xian's life, and also extended to a series of practical superpowers including teleportation, parasitism, no-CD enhancement, monitoring, etc. The same goes for his super charm. Although no fancy extended abilities have been developed, the effect of automatically raising the favorability of the opposite sex to the maximum when meeting is very buggy. For example, now, if Beverly didn't have super charm, it would be so easy for her to believe Xiao Xian, a stranger. Not only was she willing to face the shadow of her childhood and reveal all the information about Pennywise, but she was also willing to accompany her to challenge Pennywise who had just defeated Superman. Not to mention the stranger Xiao Xian, even Billy, the leader of the League of Losers who saved his friends' lives in the movie, had to work hard to convince his friends to face the Joker again. In the end, it was Pennywise who came to his aid and said that he would definitely kill everyone, so everyone had to fight with Pennywise. "If you go, I'll go with you." Looking at Xiao Xian's handsome face, Beverly held Xiao Xian's hand and said, "If I can kill him once, I can kill him a second time. Although we don't have the help of our friends this time, with you here, we will definitely succeed." In fact, Beverly was not sure about defeating Pennywise. Just because one can do something when one is young does not mean one can do it when one grows up. Just like in the fairy tale, when faced with the king's new clothes, none of the adults had the courage to expose it, and in the end it was the children who saw through the lie. But Beverly couldn't just watch Xiao Xian go find Pennywise while she did nothing. Rather than staying at home and waiting for the outcome, Beverly would rather face it with Xiao Xian. Even if they failed, they could die together. After the death of her best friend, Beverly almost lost the motivation to live. If she had not met Xiao Xian, she would have planned to commit suicide after the murderer was tried. Chapter 119. The current situation of the Avengers. The Hulk has found Pennywise. Beverly happily said to Xiao Xiandao, who was sorting out his equipment. The Hulk is extremely strong, has thick skin and flesh, and has no fear. I think he can definitely defeat Pennywise. Beverly felt that Superman was probably frightened by Pennywise's illusion just like she was back then, so he was floating in the air like a balloon. But the Hulk is different. According to the official statement of the Avengers, Bruce is unconscious in the Hulk state and acts entirely on instinct. The disadvantage of this is that the Hulk will create some vicious incidents from time to time, destroying cities and so on, but the advantage is that the Hulk in this state should have no fear. I think it's pretty bad. It's better to rely on yourself than on others. Xiao Xian naturally didn't believe the official statement of the Avengers. According to the official statement, Hawkeye was still a good family man. Xiao Xian has no impression of what the comics are like. Bruce the Hulk in the movie is indeed unconscious, but the Hulk himself is conscious, and he is still a simple child. As for whether the Hulk would be afraid, Xiao Xian thought it was unlikely. There was still controversy as to whether the Hulk became autistic after being beaten by Thanos after arriving on Earth in Avengers 3 or simply did not want to transform on Earth. Anyway, Xiao Xian thought that the Hulk's magic resistance was really average. In the movie, there is a scene where the Hulk is influenced by Wanda and goes berserk. At that time, Wanda had just debuted, and her ability had not yet reached its peak, but the Hulk went berserk. Considering that people in this world are generally worse in character, Xiao Xian feels that the probability of the Hulk defeating Pennywise is basically zero. Of course, nothing is absolute. There is also a super strong version of the Hulk in the comics, but Xiao Xian doesn't rely too much on others. However, if this is all the foundation of this world, Xiao Xian feels a little disappointed. Superman and the Hulk are the powers that are displayed in the open, and Xiao Xian thought he could see some hidden powers. When are we leaving? Beverly asked as she looked at Xiao Xian, who had finished packing his equipment and sat back on the sofa. No rush, let's wait and see. S.H.I.E.L.D. is a big organization after all, they should have some hidden cards. Let the bullets fly for a while. Xiao Xian was not in a hurry. Pennywise was actually immortal anyway, so Xiao Xian was not afraid that the mission would be snatched away by others. Moreover, the people of S.H.I.E.L.D. don't know the specific information about Pennywise, let alone his weaknesses. It is basically impossible to overwhelm Pennywise simply in terms of strength or nature. His true form is the evil god of the universe, and he is not from this universe, but an evil god from a higher universe. If S.H.I.E.L.D. had this strength, other worlds might have refrained from using it, but this world would have already colonized the galaxy and developed other worlds. If anything, in this world, there may be only a few who can come into contact with Pennywise's original death ray, such as Scarlet Witch's chaos magic, Phoenix Girl's Phoenix Force, and Superman rushing into the sun. But how do we know what S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to do? Will it succeed? This kind of thing should be top secret, right? Beverly asked. According to the official nature, even if a monster like Pennywise is defeated, it will not be made public immediately, but will be made public after some time. The reason is that some weirdness has the property of spreading through information, at least that's what the public is generally told. Of course I have my own information channels. Xiao Xian said with a smile. There are so many female agents in S.H.I.E.L.D. In terms of loyalty, those female agents are not as loyal to S.H.I.E.L.D. as to Xiao Xian. Of course, most female agents didn't know that Xiao Xian was alive. Xiao Xian only told several powerful female agents in S.H.I.E.L.D., such as Black Widow, Barbara, Hill, etc., through secret channels, and asked them to pass the information to him at the right time. If S.H.I.E.L.D. was still dominated by men and there were few women in high positions, Xiao Xian could have changed S.H.I.E.L.D.'s name overnight. So we're just going to wait like this. Beverly looked at Xiao Xian and said meaningfully. In her opinion, going to Pennywise's lair would be a life or death struggle, so she wanted to enjoy herself before risking her life. I have to contact the informant. You can take the initiative yourself. Xiao Xian sat on the sofa and looked at Beverly. Then I won't be polite. Beverly looked at Xiao Xian charmingly with her bright eyes, and then slightly opened her rosy lips. The tip of her tongue gently extended, slowly leaving a trace of moisture on her soft upper lip, just like dewdrops sliding on the petals of a blooming rose, pure and full of temptation. Then, Beverly slowly squatted in front of Xiao Xian. The tight clothes fit her body perfectly, highlighting her slim waist and graceful curves. While enjoying Beverly's service, Xiao Xian chatted with the female agents with a special mobile phone. The Hulk was sent by Betty Ross. S.H.I.E.L.D. invited the Hulk to handle this incident before, but the Hulk refused. Black Widow sent a message to test, did something happen between you and Betty Ross? I'm not jealous, but I have to warn you that General Ross is a difficult person to talk to. She wanted my body, but I didn't let her succeed. Xiao Xian replied. Black Widow breathed a sigh of relief when she saw the news about Xiao Xian. Unlike most women, she had never expected to monopolize Xiao Xian. She just wanted to be Xiao Xian's lover, poker partner, a long-term one. The Black Widow doesn't think there is any woman in the world who can tie Xiao Xian's heart, but not being able to tie his heart doesn't mean not being able to tie him down. As a military boss, General Ross has the ability to eliminate most of the beautiful women for Betty Ross, including the Black Widow. To outsiders, Black Widow is a super agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., the beauty of the Avengers, and the goddess who is responsible for providing benefits to male audiences. But in General Ross's eyes, getting Black Widow to obey may be troublesome, but making her disappear is just a matter of a word. He doesn't even need to use superpowers. It is enough to send a sniper with better marksmanship. You Avengers, aren't you going to take action? Xiao Xian asked, this will hurt your popularity, right? We can't go out. We usually just pose for photos. It was Hulk's idea to participate this time. Hulk got in with General Ross's help. Besides, he has no brains, so the Bureau can't control him at all. Black Widow replied, think about the few members of our alliance left. Tony Stark is a bad-tempered and lustful dude. Thor is not on Earth. I am a vase character. Hawkeye relies on doing dirty work for the president and his wife to get in on the act. We are both stronger than ordinary people but not much stronger. We are both direct descendants of S.H.I.E.L.D. who were forced to get in on the act. Captain America is just a duck. When we are filming, he is afraid of hardship, fatigue, and danger, so the fighting scenes are performed by a stunt double. If only a few of us were to deal with Pennywise, wouldn't that be asking for our lives? Black Widow said self-deprecatingly with great self-awareness. I will take the civil service exam tomorrow, so I will take a day off. The update will be made up at the end of March or early April. Chapter 120, Being Recruited. The Hulk found Pennywise in Harlem, who was trying to attack someone, but failed. Now the Hulk is rampaging in the city center, and Pennywise is missing again. S.H.I.E.L.D. is now in a state of panic. As expected, Natasha brought news that the Hulk had been defeated. Given the Hulk's mental resistance, there was really no hope. The good news is that the Hulk's targets of destruction include Stark Tower. With the pressure from S.H.I.E.L.D. and public opinion, Tony decided to take his men to stop him. I remember you don't like him, so now is a good opportunity to put an end to him. Killing him with a surprise attack like this would be too easy for him. Besides, killing him at this point will definitely lead to an investigation. Besides, his brain may be useful in the future. Is there any news from S.H.I.E.L.D.? How do they plan to deal with Pennywise? Xiao Xian rejected the proposal to attack Tony directly. Revenge must be full of malice to be called revenge. Assassination is only done when you cannot defeat the opponent head-on. For example, he might use this method against Superman, but if Xiao Xian wanted to kill Tony, he could just fly to his house at any time and solve the problem with a single glance. There was no need to take action now, which would only cause trouble. In comparison, Xiao Xian is more concerned about S.H.I.E.L.D.'s trump card. A high-ranking commissioner was sent down from above. Nick Fury was very respectful to him. He seemed to have brought a highly confidential secret weapon with him. He said that the next time Pennywise tried to attack someone, that would be his death. So confident? Do you know what the secret weapon is? Xiao Xian asked curiously. It seemed that S.H.I.E.L.D. was finally going to take out some cards that it didn't know about. Wait, it can't be the Cosmic Cube. I don't know. I don't have enough authority. I didn't even see any boxes or suitcases, and I don't know where he put the things. Natasha answered helplessly. Her position in S.H.I.E.L.D. was not low, but it was just not low. At best, she was a senior employee in S.H.I.E.L.D. The owner of S.H.I.E.L.D. was not her at all, and certainly not Nick Fury. Give me the location information of that specialist, and I'll send someone to investigate. Xiao Xian, that commissioner has a very high status. His security level is even higher than Nick Fury. Do you know what this means? Natasha sent Xiao Xian a message to remind him that Xiao Xian was indeed very strong now, but he was far from being able to do whatever he wanted. The higher he climbed, the more Natasha understood how deep the water in this world was. Not to mention Xiao Xian now, even Superman may not be qualified to do whatever he wants. I know. Don't worry. I won't do anything to him, and I don't plan to alert the security. I naturally have my own way of getting intelligence. Xiao Xian replied to Natasha with a smile. Compared to fighting, stealing intelligence is the White Queen's telepathic strength. Okay then. The commissioner will be heading to another base later. He has 9 possible routes. 9 vehicles will set off at the same time, and one of them will carry the commissioner. Damn, is he setting up a fake tomb? 9 cars. Xiao Xian complained when he heard it. However, this problem is easy to solve. The White Queen's mind-reading ability can easily sense that there is someone in the car. As for the commissioner, it's normal for him to be a bit more impressive. This commissioner is easy to recognize. All 5 fingers on his left hand are mechanical fingers, his eyes have been replaced with mechanical arms, and there are a lot of wounds on his body. What's this weird outfit, cosplaying as the Terminator? Xiao Xian almost thought it was the Winter Soldier. After sending a message to the White Queen, Xiao Xian glanced at Beverly who had fainted, and walked to the corridor to call the White Queen in real time. Hey! How are you? By the way, has your telepathic ability improved? No, I know you are definitely not dead. Now I'm waiting on the road for the commissioner's car to pass by. Oh, I'm lucky, this car seems to be the one carrying the commissioner. Queen Bai looked at a car coming from a distance and talked to Xiao Xian on the phone. What is he thinking about now? Xiao Xian asked. In his mind, is he recalling the scene of him using a knife to look at his fingers? The White Queen was reading the commissioner's mind and was somewhat speechless. Did this man cut off his fingers himself? The White Queen thought it was some kind of battle medal or something. Ah! He cuts himself. This guy is sick. But it is true that some of the upper-class people have very special hobbies. For example, Harry has a very special hobby. He has been looking forward to Mary Jane and I meeting him in front of him. Xiao Xian said speechlessly. Harry, that was influenced by me. But it's true that many rich people like to play some weird things. When Black Emperor opened a club before, many rich people paid ladies to whip them and insult them. The White Queen recalled her past memories and said, some people like to be strangled. In short, human beings are very diverse. However, it is still relatively rare for someone to cut off his or her own fingers like this person did. He's thinking about his wife and daughter again, which is quite cute. The White Queen read the commissioner's mind, but now was not the time to look at other people's family records. The White Queen then created a weird laugh in the commissioner's mind. It is difficult for ordinary people to see Pennywise. It only takes a little auditory hallucination to make the commissioner mistakenly believe that Pennywise is nearby. Since Pennywise is nearby, it is normal for him to think about how to deal with Pennywise, right? Who? As expected, the commissioner immediately opened his eyes wide in vigilance, observing the situation around him, trying to find any trace of Pennywise's presence. At the same time, the plan to deal with Pennywise, which he had practiced countless times in his mind, flashed through the commissioner's mind. I see. He wants to fight weirdness with weirdness. The White Queen suddenly exclaimed, no wonder Black Widow can't see the suitcase. This man himself is a weapon against Pennywise. Is this person a weirdo? Xiao Xian was surprised when he heard this, and said, it's a good thing this is a man. If it was a woman, she would stare at him like Tommy did. But then again, Tommy ran away and said she was going to shed her evil body, and he didn't know if she succeeded. If she succeeded and her real body became as beautiful as she looked, would he be brave enough? Well, since there are monsters in this world, humans will naturally find ways to use them. Not to mention monsters, there are also plenty of people rushing to trade with demons, devils, and the like. He's not weird, he's a weird invitation ticket. Shield threatened his entire family's lives and asked him to drag Pennywise into another weird game. It's over, I've been tricked. As long as I know the weird name, I will be pulled into the game within 3 days, and I have read his name. The White Queen suddenly burst into tears. She saw what happened to the commissioner in the weird game. If it weren't for his family, the man would have committed suicide long ago, and the same thing would soon happen to her. I love you, Xiao Xian, don't ask about this commissioner, this is hell.